Gannon.
Mr. Gaskins, did you
Or I'm
want?
sorry. Yeah, Mr. Gaskins.
Yes, ma'am. I'm prepared to do the roll call.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, go ahead.
Can I ask who Bailey Ma is?
Mark Bailey is with transportation.
No. He's our
Oh,
He's our
sorry.
He's our
Director
plant,
of
he's our plant director. He's our plant director.
Thank you. I don't think we've met. Nice to meet you, Mr. Ma, Mr. Bailey.
And so, just so I'm clear, how do I access which email out of the millions that have arrived today do I get the public comments from?
It should be in a link that, Lisa, I can't remember when you sent it, but it's called Public Comment July 9, I think. So you may have to search that from a,
Okay.
I can reshare it if you would
that would
like.
be great.
It came yesterday at 2:31.
All right. Well, I think we have a quorum here. So we are going to go ahead and get started.
If that could be reshared, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, I am.
Mr. Gaskins, we are streaming live, right?
Yes, we are live. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll call our, we'll call our meeting to order at 6:06. Start with a roll call. Mr. Gaskins?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Davis,
Here.
Mr. Stevens,
Here.
Miss Davis,
Here.
Dr. Yeager,
Here.
Dr. Dykeman,
Here.
Mr. Worthy,
Here.
Dr. Gant,
Here.
Dr. Knox,
Here.
and Dr. Maddox.
Here.
Thank you. We'll have a moment of silent meditation. Thank you. We'll move forward with item number 2. Open the floor for motions to amend and or adopt the agenda.
I move to amend the agenda to remove item 10.12, which is, I can't scroll on Lisa's, which is the action regarding the personnel matter.
I second.
Okay. Are there any questions or further discussion? All right. Mr. Gaskins, all in favor of the motion to remove item 10.12? If you would, Mr. Gaskins, take roll for us.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Miss Davis,
Yes.
Dr. Yeager,
Yes.
Dr. Dykeman,
Yes.
Mr. Worthy,
Yes.
Dr. Gant,
Yes.
Dr. Knox,
No.
Dr. Maddox.
No.
Okay. Thank you. So from my records, I think that motion to move item 10.12 passes with 7 yeses and 2 nos, Mr. Gaskins?
That's correct.
Okay. And so that motion passes. That item will be removed from the agenda. We'll now open the floor to adopt the agenda as it's been amended.
I so move.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, I heard Ms. Davis for the motion, and was that Mr. Davis or Mr. Stevens for the second?
Both of us.
Okay.
have it.
Okay. Mr. Stevens for the second. Any questions or further discussion? Okay. All in favor of adopting the agenda as it's been amended? Mr. Gaskins, for the record, if you would take roll call for those votes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Miss Davis,
Yes.
Dr. Yeager,
Yes.
Dr. Dykeman,
Yes.
Mr. Worthy,
Yes.
Dr. Gant,
Yes.
Dr. Knox,
Yes.
and Dr. Maddox.
Yes.
Okay. So our agenda is before us as it's been amended. We'll move forward with item number 3, which is public comment. We have a total of 80 letters, and thanks to our team, we will be reading these. We've divided up the letters to read them. And so I will read some letters, and Mr. Davis, Dr. Dykeman, Mrs. Davis, and Dr. Maddox will be assisting. Ms. Palmer will be keeping time for us. And Ms. Palmer, if it's okay for me to start reading, I want to
Yes, you may start now.
screen up. Okay, so I'll go ahead and begin. Dear Superintendent Thomas, Dr. Gant, and members of the board, I'm writing this letter as a parent of 2 CCSD students, a rising 5th grader at Whitehead Road and a rising 1st grader in the LID program at Oglethorpe Avenue. First, I would like to address the issue of 2 superintendents currently on the payroll. Dr. Thomas came to lead the district at a time of unexpected turmoil. I appreciate the commitment she has shown the district. There is no reason to continue paying Dr. Means for the job he is not doing. The board should allow Dr. Thomas to lead the district into a more equitable and just future for all our students until a permanent replacement is chosen. Second, I am writing with concerns about the district's plan to reopen. Despite the fact that a majority of survey respondents expressed a desire to delay the start of school, the district has chosen not to do so for reasons that remain unclear. The survey was sent out when the COVID trajectory was different. Given the alarming rise and record-breaking number of new cases daily in our state, a delay to allow county's mask ordinance to take effect and to see whether the governor takes further steps to slow the spread seems wise. News reports indicate that PPE is scarce, and a trip to any local grocery store would demonstrate that Lysol spray and wipes and hand sanitizer is difficult to obtain. How is the district going to supply PPE for staff and masks for students and provide cleaning supplies? Are teachers expected to supplement? Are parents, as we always do when supply lists come out? I am pleased to see that a virtual option is being offered, but we as parents have been asked to decide whether to select that option with no information about how it would work. How much involvement are parents expected to have if their child is participating in remote learning? Is there live instruction? Recorded instruction? Who is doing the instruction? A CCSD teacher teaching remote only, or a CCSD teacher now expected to provide both in-person and digital instruction? Some teacher from some other city or state. Many CCSD teachers are high risk for severe COVID infections and have expressed a desire, according to the survey, to provide remote instruction. And yet, as far as I can tell, nothing has been done to facilitate that at the elementary school level. Digital instruction in the spring was as good as could be expected when it was rushed into. The district has had months to prepare for the inevitable need for it again, but nothing in the plan indicates that has been done. My son had almost zero interaction with any teacher during the weeks of remote learning. My daughter has a significant developmental delay, and digital learning was basically pointless for her. Due to her disability, she is not able to engage in learning on an iPad and needs accommodations for learning that cannot be provided at a distance. How is the district planning to ensure that special education students receive a free and appropriate education? That was Adrian Freeman. Sorry, I don't know if I said that. Okay. This is from Adrian Helm. And it reads, Dear Clark County School District Board members, the children, faculty, and staff of Clark County Public Schools are facing a novel crisis as the nation as a whole struggles with an unprecedented pandemic. In order to salvage positive educational outcomes in 2020, students need all adults to make their very best efforts on their behalf to meet the challenges of the current situation and to craft solutions that will allow them some measure of success within a climate of personal safety and care. Looking at the current status of the disease and state and national leadership to control it, I am sure you are as worried as I. It is not time to sideline any school district resources. In fact, it is time to marshal them. I urge you to take the following steps. Put Dr. Means to work with Dr. Thomas and district leadership to put in place the best plans and strategies to safely educate Clark County students. Acknowledge that the actions of some school board members to discredit Dr. Means have backfired badly and jeopardized the accreditation of the school district. Understand that putting Dr. Means on administrative leave in the manner executed by this board was violative of its own policies. Understand that attempting to terminate his contract at this point will further expose this board to additional expense and potential humiliation. Stop putting your pride before the good of children. Sacrifice that pride and bring Dr. Means and his brain and experience to work. These times demand it. Adrian Helm, Athens resident and taxpayer. This is from Alex Devon. Dear Doctors Jackson, Thomas, and Dykeman, my name is Alex Devon. My wife, Ann Myers Devon, and I are parents of 2 Chase Elementary students. While I understand there has not been an official announcement about the plans for reopening this fall, I am compelled to contact you with my view that opening in-person school on the regular calendar schedule is quite simply a dangerous and irresponsible idea. There is just no possible way that teachers and school administration will be able to enforce consistent and effective social distancing and mask wearing, not to mention being able to effectively instruct while doing so, especially among the youngest of students. There is just no possible way the district will be able to ensure the health and well-being of students, staff, and every single person who lives with or interacts with those individuals after they leave school grounds. I am strongly urging CCSD to plan to use online instruction for the month of August and assess the viability of resuming in-person instruction around Labor Day, based on the state of this health crisis at that time. Sincerely, Alex Devine. This is from Amanda Price. Dear Clark County Board of Education, I have never been quiet when it comes to advocating for my students. If I'm going to continue to advocate for them, I must first advocate for myself and for other teachers. As a teacher in Clark County, I will be entering my 4th year in the district and 7th year overall. I love my job. I respect the work I share with my colleagues and the effort I see them make. I love my students. I would want nothing more than to be back in the classroom with them, but I have many concerns about that happening given the current state of public health. I am familiar with the economic disparities that exist in Clark County, and I saw firsthand how those affected emergency distance learning. However, I took comfort knowing that myself and my colleagues were doing our best to work with our students and provide them with the attention to their social emotional needs that we could. Yet, even though teachers completed a survey earlier in the summer to indicate if they were high risk to COVID and or if they would be interested in teaching digitally, it was later communicated that the district will be handling online learning through a corporate package program. I am also concerned that the distance learning option essentially eliminates the hands-on electives such as band or chorus, visual art, agriculture, and physical education when these subjects are in short life-giving. These are the things that have helped many of us cope with this pandemic. Why are the teachers who are at risk not given the option to work with students? Why is the social emotional health and relationship building that is part of why ideally we need to be back in schools not a part of the discussion here? Why are electives not part of the distance learning available? Why should teachers have to choose between their health and their profession? I myself am not high risk, yet I am terrified at the idea of going back to work as the cases in the community only continue to rise. According to the Georgia Department of Public Health, there were 804 confirmed cases of COVID in Athens, Clark County as of 3 p.m. on Wednesday, July 8th. For some comparison here, there were 54 cases on April 1st when schools were closed. On June 1st, there were 293 cases, July 574. That's an increase of 174.4% from June 1st to now, which is without the close proximity of populations within schools. Reopening schools with the increasing spread of COVID is putting all of our lives at risk, the high-risk categories. Additionally, COVID-19 disproportionately affects Black, Indigenous people of color populations, which according to district data, comprise 80% of our student population. The American Academy of Pediatrics stated that the goal should be having students present in school. I agree, but I also ask you to look at the numbers and recognize that is currently not a safe option. The AAP also stated that reopening schools without consideration of community spread really goes against our recommendations. There is no easy answer here. All of the solutions are flawed, however quality. Experienced teachers should not be seen as expendable. After all, the goal of teaching is to meet the needs of our students. We shouldn't have to risk our own lives in order to do that. I hope that as a community, we can approach this in a way that has the health and needs of our students, teachers, and overall community in mind.
Dr. Gant, do you not hear the buzzer? Does anyone not hear this?
I did, well, I'm just now hearing one, but I did not hear one before.
Okay.
Okay, this is from Angela Barr. I'm sorry, Angela A. Barr. There has been a myriad of questions, comments, and concerns in regard to the recently released CCSD school reopening plan. The voices of parents, CCSD employees, and Clark County community members are ringing loudly in a number of public and private forums. While these interactions are often viewed as people venting or creating drama, I ask you to look at it from another perspective. The current climate and uncertainty surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic have many people seeking reassurance and asking for help. They need and want more information because they want to do everything possible to keep their loved ones safe and healthy. Unfortunately, larger decisions have been made that are forcing parents and workers into a corner where the choice is to go along with the stated plan, which could mean increased health risk, or choose an option that will mitigate some of the risk factors related to virus transmission, but potentially lose your job. Are these the kinds of choices we want for families we serve? I know we can do better. We can choose to listen to and incorporate the ideas of many into a reopening plan that decreases the risk of transmitting this unpredictable virus, while also supporting members of the local workforce. The details I want to discuss regarding the presented CCSD opening plan are too great to appropriately address in under 3 minutes, so I hope to give you a clear and concise summary. The reopening plan, as is, does not provide enough information for the affected parties to make an informed decision in regards to safety protocols and the instructional model options. There was no opportunity to present for input from people representing all stakeholders prior to the plan's release, which goes against CCSD board policies GAC and GAC-R1. I believe that had the task force been comprised of a more representative group, many of the concerns and gaps could have been foreseen and addressed accordingly. The survey data presented to parents, which some argue is now outdated in this fast-changing environment, is misleading and not representative of the diverse population of CCSD. I implore you to read and review the attached open letter, which provides a more thorough collection of these ideas, suggestions, questions, and concerns before making any final decisions about reopening Clark County schools for instruction. Thank you for your time and consideration. I appreciate your dedication to the students and employees of the Clark County School District. Signed, concerned stakeholder. This is from Beth Wurzburg. Dear Superintendent Thomas and members of the board, I am writing this letter as a CCSD student, as a former elementary school teacher in CCSD, and as a current teacher educator at UGA. I want to first say that I understand these are unprecedented times, and I understand the complexity and difficulty of making decisions that will impact thousands of people in and around Athens. I appreciate all of your work in ensuring the educational success and safety of all of our students, teachers, staff, and community members. However, I have significant concerns with the proposed reopening plans that have been delivered to parents and teachers over the last couple of days. While I was relieved to hear that CCSD was planning to provide both online and in-person options for student instruction, I was shocked to read that the online instructional option that would be provided to my middle schooler is a corporate online package program rather than instruction being provided online by teachers in CCSD. These two issues are entangled, as it seems that CCSD teachers have not been given the opportunity to volunteer to teach online if they have underlying health conditions. This feels like an impossible situation for both teachers and parents. For teachers, they have to choose to risk their health no matter their underlying conditions or take unpaid leave with no promise of a job after their 10 weeks are up due to no fault of their own. For parents, we have to choose to send our children into schools and risk the health of our children, their teachers, and everyone else residing in our household, or force our children to learn primarily from an automated, depersonalized, data-driven corporate program. These do not feel like reasonable choices for people to have. I propose that the board and superintendent revisit this plan. Have a look at the plans that have been put together by, for example, Gwinnett and Oconee counties that provide online teaching option for teachers based on their health and safety needs. Further, I am not aware of any discussion of the mental well-being of both students and teachers in these unprecedented times. Everyone is uncertain and afraid of what the future holds right now. And that is certainly understandable. However, leadership should work to ensure the well-being of our students, staff, and teachers in CCSD. With social safety nets such as healthcare, food and housing security, and of course, education being consistently underfunded, now is the time to ensure equitable access to quality education for all of our students in CCSD. We should spend the money that would go to Edgenuity to pay teachers to use their summertime to prepare to teach online in the fall and to provide additional mental health professionals for students and teachers in CCSD. The current plan will only increase the divide between the haves and the have-nots in CCSD, as parents with the time and money will use the online option with support of private tutors and unenroll their children from CCSD and form small homeschool groups that will provide quality in-person instruction.
Dr. Gant, time's up.
Thank you. This message is from Brent Andrews, and it reads, "Dear board members, thank you for your service in trying times. CCSD is facing more challenges than ever due to COVID-19, and it's imperative that we devote all energy and resources to addressing problems of the present and future. In order to do so, CCSD must move beyond its past and officially begin the process of finding a new superintendent. Dr. Thomas has proven to be an effective interim who works for the best interests of students and families in our community. Remaining in leadership limbo prevents CCSD from focusing fully on the needs of our students and undermines the confidence our district shows towards Dr. Thomas. Dr. Thomas grew up in our community, graduated from CCSD, and has continued to serve this community in various roles such as school level principal and district office administrator. She knows our community and the needs of our students and is quite capable of successfully navigating our district through the uncertainties of COVID-19 and a search for a new superintendent. Anytime we choose to spend in a struggle over the position of one man is time and energy taken away from solving the problems facing many students and families of color in this district. CCSD does face a crisis in terms of inequities in educational outcomes and disproportionality in discipline for students of color. Overcoming these systemic issues faced by every community in America is the work of a unified district fully devoted to racial and economic justice, not the work of a single person. I recently watched Dr. Richard Welsh's presentation to the school board, and I strongly recommend implementing his suggestions for furthering the reach of restorative practices in our schools. His recommendations include funding for training and staff positions to help our schools move away from exclusionary discipline and better meet the needs of students. Restorative practices not only ensures that our students spend more time in instructional learning environments, they also help students accept responsibility while effectively communicating and advocating for their own needs. Restorative practices is not a magic pill everyone takes at the beginning of the year. It is a highly structured system which requires continuous effort. If we are serious about improving student achievement, we must first demonstrate that the dignity, respect, and humanity of every student in CCSD is our top priority. This requires the district's full commitment, and in order to fully commit, we must dedicate ourselves to supporting the present leadership of Dr. Thomas while searching for a future leader who seeks to unify CCSD and fulfill the academic and emotional needs of our most marginalized students. This is from Bridget Radizak. Hello, Mr. Knox and Mrs. Thomas. I am writing to share my position on several issues that you and the CCSD Board of Education are grappling with. First, thank you for your service to CCSD. I have been an engaged and proud CCSD parent for years now, and an employee for 5 years at 4th Street Elementary prior to that. Never have I seen a BOE or superintendent and administration who were faced with more difficult decisions than you all have had to endure. I know that there are tons of moving parts in all of your decisions, but I thought it prudent to share my perspective and opinions. The first concern relates to the personnel matter of Dr. Means. I am fully against any decision to reinstate Dr. Means as superintendent. He has done irreparable damage to relationships in this district and is not the type of leader that we need. We need a person who will bring the many varied needs and interests of our community together to work towards equity, real equity, not someone who will divide us further, as Dr. Means did. We need a leader who will admit faults and embrace different perspectives, not call bully when someone disagrees with him. Dr. Means is not the answer for CCSD. Please do what needs to be done to suspend his employment with the district. The second thing I need to address is the reopening of schools during the COVID-19 pandemic. I implore you to please offer a virtual only option for those families who need it. My father is dying of cancer and my husband is immunocompromised. If my daughter has to physically go to school starting in August, it will put our whole family at risk and prevent us from providing much needed care and support to my parents in my dad's final days. Please give us and other families in similar situations a legitimate workable option for my child to safely continue her education virtually. Thank you for considering my perspective as you work to keep CCSD strong and support children, families, faculty, and staff. Bridget Radizak, excuse me. This is from Brittany Dorman, and it says, hello, I'm Brittany Dorman. I was wondering, will there be an option for children to work from home if we're not comfortable sending our children to school during this pandemic? Okay. This is from Brittany Heron. It says, I want to say thank you to the school board and reopening committee who has worked hard in an impossible situation. While there is no situation that is going to be perfect, I believe you all have the safety of students and teachers in mind as you make very difficult decisions. Also, I would like to say that I believe it is time to put all of our resources into our schools rather than continuing to pay 2 superintendent salaries, while Dr. Means brought to light many important issues of racial inequity in our county. He is not the only one who can move us forward in doing what is right for students of color. In particular, Dr. Thomas is just as focused on creating an equitable experience for students of Clark County and is devoted to this community personally and professionally. We should move forward under her leadership and continue to keep important issues of race and inequality at the forefront of our work. Thank you. This is from Chrissy Marlowe. And it reads, I have some concerns that I believe the CCSD has not fully addressed or has handled poorly. We are all struggling in some way or another with this unprecedented, frightening, and fluid situation. When we reflect on this time somewhere in the future, let's make sure our priorities were people, teachers, students, staff, parents, guardians, and the Athens community. When you send an email of such import, such importance with deadlines and life or death choices between that is what these are. Make sure everyone receives them. I am astonished at the number of people, including me, who did not receive it. 2, if students choose the hybrid option, will the online portion be taught by CCSD teachers or outsourced? If outsourced, why not use CCSD teachers who are immunocompromised or live with those who, or live with those who are, excuse me. Continuity between in-person and online seems necessary and important to give students the attention they need. 3, please treat district teachers better than what you have offered. Be at school or lose pay. Being immunocompromised doesn't go away after 2 weeks. This is insensitive and dangerous. Lives are at stake and the tone of your letter is callous. The district should offer an online option for teachers with any of the conditions listed in the letter, or if they live with someone with any of them or don't have adequate childcare. Unpaid leave is not an option for most all teachers. They are not paid wages as hefty a salary as school administrators. Get rid of one of the superintendents if cash is an issue. In this situation, when you have both teachers and students who will opt out for some version of online, either from an abundance of caution or necessity, it seems the obvious solution is to pair them up for virtual learning. A school district is nothing without its teachers. Show them the respect and humanity they deserve by giving them valid options during a pandemic. What will happen if, as we are currently seeing, another surge in cases locally or cases at a school changes the situation? Will classes go online? Will that be an option for students, parents, teachers who choose either the in-person or hybrid option? How is the district handling sanitizing the schools? How are you keeping the kids safe? And how are you keeping staff safe? If you are treating teachers with such insensitivity, cruelty, really, how are you treating staff? I strongly, emphatically suggest delaying the start of school to formulate a better plan of action that addresses the issues and concerns from the CCSD community and treats teachers and staff with true consideration and answers questions currently unanswered. I would like to have faith that you have placed the district community, students, teachers, staff, parents, guardians as your highest priority by providing options that truly allow for
Dr.
individual.
Gant, time is up.
Thank you. This is from Christy Davis. It says, "Dear Board, as parents of 3 elementary schoolers in the district, we are writing to express our dissatisfaction with the current return to school plan as communicated. I urge you to spend CARES money in ways that will provide positively impact students and keep them connected to the district and not on edgenuity. Overhaul your policies regarding teachers and illness, and to urge you to complete the dismissal of Dr. Means from our district payroll. All 4 of these stated needs are strongly intertwined with each other and require immediate action for the educational, ethical, and fiscal well-being of our district. Firstly, we are aghast at the lack of details to the return to school task force plans that leave parents and teachers in the dark as to what day-to-day learning will look like, whether in person or online, as well as what health protocols will be in place and how they will actually be enforced in the school buildings. All while giving parents a very short turnaround to fill out another survey with indications of which learning model we will choose for our children. We urge you to delay the start of school until after Labor Day to allow the district to sincerely get busy on distance learning plans that allow teachers to choose distance or in-person teaching options, and then assign actual CCSD teachers to all students in the district. Investing in iReady or MobyMax is a waste of the district's dollars because the platforms are unengaging, but worse, full of incorrect factual information in both ELA and math across multiple grade levels. Instead, we urge the district to invest in our teachers and their well-being by offering them these distance learning positions with availability determined by parental survey requests for student distant learning. Furthermore, on the topic of teachers and their needs, the policies set in place during this global pandemic for teachers to have 2 weeks of additional sick leave and 10 weeks unpaid leave are an abuse of our teachers, who are the district's greatest assets. These policies need to be revisited ASAP. And a good start would be distance learning options for those who are high risk or live with high risk family members. I know many teachers are pushing back on this, and you should listen to them and their needs and make changes accordingly. Pushing back the start of school to after Labor Day would give you time for this as well. Lastly, we urge you to cut ties with Damon Means and allow our district to move on. Since his arrival, we have been concerned about the increased testing in our district, the push towards privatization with ever increasing spending on consultants and big box corporate products that have no evidence of positively impacting the educational outcomes for the students of our district. Dr. Means brought all of these things into our district with him, as well as an extremely misguided approach to equity. I, Christy, studied.
Dr. Gant, time's up.
Thank you. This is a letter from Clark teachers from CCSC staff. During these uncertain times, transparent and compassionate communication are particularly important. Human Resource Director Lynn Duke answered many questions in her July 6th letter. Concerns remain about how CCSD will safeguard the well-being of its staff, students, and the Athens community. Cases of the virus have greatly increased in the last month, including among children. This is why we feel uncertain about a safe return to school. The CCSD staff helm the education of our students and will be placed on the front lines of a global pandemic. We believe that a safe learning environment is possible, but we would like to see more specific measures that we believe will help us keep everyone as healthy and as safe as can be reasonably expected. Therefore, we are requesting that the task force delay the start of school until after Labor Day on September 8th. That would give the district time to meet with a representative group of staff to consider and discuss the following concerns and suggestions in the development of a more comprehensive plan for K-12 education before the start of this school year. The list of concerns includes building operations modifications, on-site health plans, on-site instructional modifications, transportation modifications, distant learning plans, and staff health leave plans. We realize this list is long and beyond our 3-minute allocation, and that is perfectly why we stress the importance of delaying the start of school and forming a group of staff members to address this exhaustive list. To summarize our concerns and suggestions, we want a safe physical environment stocked with all of the appropriate supplies and equipment to keep ourselves and students safe. We want to know that our bus drivers will be safe and that our students will be transported safely to their school communities. We want a clear, detailed on-site health plan so that our schools are prepared when physical and mental health needs arise. We want on-site instructional modifications so that we know that we can teach our students to the best of our abilities, even in the midst of crisis. We want clear distance learning plans so that we know our students have their educational needs met while they are at home. And we want to know that our staff will be provided with appropriate leave plans and opportunities to work from home when possible, because we want the appropriate precautions set in place that will still allow us the honor of serving the Athens community. We appreciate all of the thought and hard work that has already gone into the plans for the upcoming school year. And we look forward to working together with our district leaders, board members, and partners to provide another year of quality, equitable education to all of our students, despite the challenges we all face from this global pandemic. Building operations modifications. Ensure fully operational and maintain HVAC systems with HEPA filters in all open buildings in the district.
Dr. Gant, time is up.
Okay. This letter is from Connie Gray. And it reads, I just learned that online instruction will be outsourced to some company rather than utilizing the resource of teachers who cannot teach in person because of health risks. The relationships built between teachers and students are a critical part of the education process, especially during the K through 12 years. Please reconsider the consequences of this decision. This next letter is from Jamie D'Angelo. Okay, and it says, my name is Jamie D'Angelo, and I am an elementary special education teacher in CCSD. In my profession, I'm used to my efficacy being judged by a student's test score. It doesn't matter how much time, effort, teaching, and reteaching went into a concept. If the end product isn't polished, the entire endeavor is seen as a failure. In that light, I pose this question to our COVID-19 task force. What do you expect the judgment of our product to be when you left more questions than answers? I'm certain you put a lot of thought and effort into your work. Use the information you had at hand at the time. You knew not everyone would be happy, but you tried. You worked overtime, ignored your own self-care and families, and probably had sleepless nights. You worried how your actions would affect the many stakeholders. You're probably looking for some grace and understanding. Teachers work hard, yet still get blamed for gaps and inadequacies. Parents work hard, yet still get fingers shamefully pointed at them in accusation. The process is rough, but teachers and parents know they are most effective when they are patient, compassionate, consistent, and truthful. I have many questions about the so-called plan your task force put forth. As I tried to collect my thoughts for this letter, the biggest sentiment that kept nagging at me was disappointment. I am disappointed in how little communication came from our district over the past few months. Teachers learned of a plan on July 6th and parents on July 7th. It's only through putting the two plans together that one can even start to comprehend what is about to happen in our district in 3 weeks. I am disappointed that your product is meant more to appease than to inform. Do you think we can't handle the information? Let me assure you that we are acutely aware that a virus is claiming lives and many people are in very dire situations. I'm disappointed that you ignored the very real feelings of this community. You didn't even acknowledge that coronavirus continues to spread and that it's okay to be fearful. As teachers, we know to meet our students where they are at. We know that we will not engage our students if we are teaching algebra while they are hungry or tired. Basic needs must be met first. Do you know what your community's basic needs are? Compassion, acknowledgement, and truthfulness. As a type 1 diabetic, I happen to be one of the district's employees that has to be handled due to an underlying condition. So yes, I am worried about my life should I return to face-to-face instruction. When I received the teacher letter on July 6th, I became worried about my job. I am being forced to either go into a building and risk my health or opt to go on leave, mostly unpaid. It's shameful that high-risk employees have no explanation of consequences for our jobs. Were you simply trying to gauge how many employees might have to stay home? If so, check your work.
Dr. Gant, time's up.
Thank you.
Mhm.
This is from Ed Helm. And it reads, Dear Dr. Thomas, President Gant, and school board members, instead of some of you desperate to figure out a way to get rid of Dr. Means, I suggest you rather spend time with your own school board policies and rules and follow them. Please start with BAB 11G. G, board members direct all complaints and requests to the superintendent rather than attempting to solve them directly. And Dr. Yeager, the present chair of the policy committee, provides this explanation for why she failed to follow BAB 11G. She didn't need to because CJ Amison did not make a request. She only made an opinion, to which I responded. I urge you to reread, however, Ms. CJ Amison's November 18, 2019 email to you and 6 board members of the CCSD board, plus the then recently resigned board member Francis Berry. You state to me, the letter you speak of expressed an opinion. It did not rise to a complaint or concern that was actionable by the superintendent. I think when you reread Ms. Amison's email, signed as ex-director of FEE, that you will conclude that her email was much more than an opinion and was by its own terms to the school board to buy out and remove Dr. Means. I cite you to Ms. Amison's email wherein the first sentence is, Dr. Berry's resignation was the stimulus I needed to send along this very painful request. She then refers to a buyout of the superintendent. Yes, in the middle of her email, she indicates that it is her opinion that a change at the top ASAP is required for CCSD to move forward. If there is any doubt that Ms. Amison was making a request to remove, take action to buy out Dr. Means, her last sentence, like her first, makes it clear. However, I am available to discuss in person or by phone my reasons for requesting this buyout. Thus, the BA 11G board policy seems to provide a clear requirement for you and the other 6 board members to direct Ms. Amison's complaint and request to the superintendent. G, board members direct all complaints and requests to the superintendent rather than attempting to solve them directly. Why didn't you do so? I have now asked several of you why you failed to follow this clear directive when a select group of board members received an email from CJ Amison requesting that this select group get rid of Superintendent Means. Mr. Greg Davis, despite asking him at least 4 times, never came close to providing me an answer. Dr. Knox, former policy committee chair, answered that he didn't relay Ms. Amison's request because he didn't want Dr. Means to think Dr. Knox was out to get him. Although Dr. Knox seemed to have no trouble voting to place Dr. Means on indefinite administrative leave, despite Dr. Means facing a complaint of his behavior by Dr. Means. You, Dr. Gant, took a long time to finally come to rest on this excuse. You
Dr. Gant, I'm sorry, time's up.
And I think there was one more that fell in my area, Lisa, and that was Ashley Nah. That was the one that that was added later, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that will be the last one that I'll be reading. And it says from Ashley Knott, and I am a teacher in the district and I'm tremendously concerned about the way that this reopening place has been handled. For one, I continue to hear that no teachers were on the task force. If this is untrue, please let us know who the teachers are. Regardless, we will be spending the most constant in-person time with the students that are electing in-person shilling and should make up a majority of the task force to begin with. More teachers need to be added, and I believe we have the capacity to do this in a democratic way by having each school elect one rep to be on the task force to figure out an equitable way where a teacher rep can represent voices from multiple schools. Maybe have teacher advisory board members on the task force since they are our bureaucratic voice. The fact that the aforementioned ideas were not first thought of by the district causes me great worry and does not instill trust in the fact that we are in good hands. Additionally, there doesn't seem to be a list of names of people and affiliations online for those that make up the task force. Please post this immediately with emails for contact for each person on the CCSE website, and also share it from any CCSE social media accounts for increased visibility. We live in a town with a 34% poverty rate. 36% of the students at my school are Black. If you all have seen the numbers in terms of inequities with CCSD having been priding itself in believing in equity, then you must know that Black people are more at risk because of their disproportionate pre-existing conditions, lack of access to economic resources, and lack of access to healthcare. Take care of your people. This is your job. I also want to bring up the fact that the email sent out by Lynn Duke was absolutely degrading to teachers and is something called gaslighting. Fear for our safety and our health is absolutely a valid reason for teachers not to show up to work. Those that do not believe this to be the case should spend their lunch doing lunch duty in schools each day from the district level and from the BOE to demonstrate that this is the case. Teachers don't have a lunch break, and at a higher pay grade, I don't think others should either. It is not moral to put others into a situation of risk if that risk is not one that decision makers are willing to also take. We are about 2 weeks out from the start of pre-planning, and a survey has just been sent out to parents. That is unacceptable. We should have heard about a plan by now for students, parents, teachers, and all citizens of Athens, as what we do in the schools will directly affect everybody in town. I support the idea of a Labor Day start date if parents also support this to give them time to come up with real solutions where the ingenuity of students.
Time is up, Dr. Gant.
Okay.
Okay. My
That
turn.
Yes, those are all of mine. Dr. Dyke.
Okay. This first one is from Elizabeth Moon. Good morning. I have a few questions regarding kids going back to in-person learning. One, when they go and say a kid has a fever through half the day or does get COVID-19, does that mean the whole class is quarantined for 14 days? And if so, two, I have 4 kids going to CCSD, so does that mean since they were around their siblings, are they now quarantined as well? 3, and are their class also quarantined? If so, that would be 4 kids or 4 classes that have to be quarantined for 14 days. I, as a parent, really hope you consider giving the parents the option to do digital learning because I do not feel it is safe for them to return to school. Yes, I worry about the kids falling behind. I have 2 kids with an IEP and I am worried, but not enough to risk their health. I really hope we get a choice because if not, I know a lot of kids will be unenrolled and placed in homeschool. Please, as a parent, I beg you all to listen to the parents because I know a lot feel this way. This is from Mark Evans. To Clark County School District. The recent information sent to the stakeholders on Monday and Tuesday of this week, July 6th and 7th respectfully, shows that this is a crisis that you are about to mismanage dreadfully. Beginning with the letter sent to our teachers and staff on Monday, July 6th, it is apparent through the use of language and the callousness of the intent of the letter that you feel our teachers are dispensable, cannon fodder. You address the state of fear and anxiety by stating in effect, get over it, stop being whiners. The fear is real for your employees. Many at this moment are making decisions on whether they should return to your employment at the risk of their health and their family's health. The fact that you couldn't or wouldn't share a safe reopening plan with details such as PPE, classroom management and assignment, and whether or not you are going to have after school tells me that there has been very little deep thinking on this issue. The mere fact that I cannot even find out who is on this task force is bothersome. Your lack of communication on this subject to your own employees and your callous disregard to their safety is troubling at best. Moving to the letter sent to parents on Tuesday, July 7th, once again shows that there was no real consideration of the current situation with our children's health and well-being. Your solutions to this pandemic are inept, vague, and out of step with current CDC requirements. Bluntly, your plan is a disaster and you know it. First off, there is no real plan. What you have are some loosely cobbled together ideas that have huge gaps of knowledge that need to be filled. You didn't tell us how you were going to pull off social distancing with infrastructure that was built to fit the maximum amount of people in a small space. You state that teachers and staff will have PPE, but you don't say where or how you are going to get it. This is especially telling at this moment as hospitals are running out of PPE in our state and surrounding states. You gave the parents a survey to fill out and then 3 days to decide what we are going to do with our kids as far as schooling goes. You have completely ignored the will of the people. Over 70% of parents surveyed said that starting August 3rd is a terrible idea, yet that is what you have chosen to do. Now that I have said my piece on your failings, let me offer this as a plan to move forward. First, move the school opening to after Labor Day. This will do 2 things. It will give you more time to prepare, and it will also allow us to see the impact of UGA on our community. Second, do not buy iReady. Instead, get a learning management system and have your teachers use that to teach. The path you are going down now will cost us financially and will cheat our students out of an education from a CCSD teacher. Reach out to the colleges in our town. They have been doing this type of instruction for a while. Third, affirm your employees. Let them know that their concerns are shared by you and that you have their best interest at heart. They are the ones who will literally be on the front lines. Lastly, listen to your parents. We want school to reopen, but we want it reopened so that way it is a safe space for our children and teachers to go. Thank you, Mark Evans. This is from Frankie Hill. Good evening. Many of us that work, live, and serve the Athens-Clarke County are hoping that the members of the Board of Education will put aside their personal agendas and do what is best for the students, the parents, and teachers that are affected by your decisions. The district's accreditation is at stake, and nothing can be noted that the issues in the Cognia report are being addressed. Parents are practically begging for information regarding the return of students to the classroom in the midst of this coronavirus. The board has been silent on these important issues. It appears that the BOE only cares about its agenda. That agenda involves trying to find a means to terminate Dr. Means without cause. By now, the BOE should have realized that many people in the community believe that Dr. Means' experience as a superintendent is needed. Put aside your dislike for him not agreeing to give your special interest group Alps Road Elementary and the West Broad properties to create a charter school. We are aware that one of these properties is in the plan to be converted to a charter school that will not benefit the impoverished population, which includes the Black and Brown students and the other minority students who demographically comprise 80% of the school population. The time has come for the Block 5 of board members that have consistently listened to the 20% white population while ignoring the voice of the 74% to morally do what is right for all students. As a result, I am appealing to you to do the right thing and bring Dr. Means back as superintendent. The next letter is from Fred Smith. To select Clark County School Board members and others in the community. When the state data revealed the schools were improving, you practically ignored it. The information didn't fit your mission and belief system. Same thing occurred when the Cognia report came out. You and your followers continued to spew falsehoods, saying the superintendent caused the accreditation woes and that the schools were not improving. Cognia plainly states that schools were improving and that board members caused the district's accreditation status to be downgraded, bringing negative news coverage on the district and community in local, state, and national publication, including the San Francisco Chronicle and the New York Times. Is Cognia wrong? The accrediting agency says the schools were improving under Dr. Means. Is that correct? The 2019 state milestones data say the students at Stroud Elementary School, located in one of the nation's most impoverished census tracts, led the district in third grade reading, unprecedented. Third graders at Alps, a chronically low performing school, registered a 100% increase in reading. Is that correct? 10 CCSD schools improved on the state 2019 College and Career Readiness Performance Index, CCRPI, with high poverty, high minority, J.J. Harris leading the way with an unprecedented 16-point gain. All of this meant nothing to you and your supporters who have continued your single focus immoral campaign. Thus, our conclusion, y'all don't give a damn about low wealth Black and brown children. Think of how demoralizing your noise and lies must be to the students, educators, and parents who worked hard to achieve the results. Again, we can see that you can only see as far as your agenda and or hate. It hurts, but it's nothing new. We know it when we see it because we have seen it so many, many times. Now you are summoning your coalition of ultra-conservative racists, special interests, and so-called progressives to pressure the firing of Dr. Means. Hence, high-tech lynching led by white women with Amy Cooper tendencies. The overwhelming vast majority of the Black community supports Dr. Means. The district is 80% non-white, but you know what's best for Black and brown children. You think the 20% should continue to lead the 80%. Some nerve, some supremacy complex, like old apartheid South Africa. Why now? UGA professors Yeager, Knox, and Dykeman, along with behavior therapist Davis, want to do all they can before the new members come on board. New members whose children are Black and brown. Are you worried they might want Dr. Means to continue improving outcomes for Black and brown children? Perish the thought. You don't want to hear it. The answer is Dr. Means, whom y'all hate so much so you're willing to jeopardize accreditation, cause the district millions of dollars, and damage children. God can't like this. Black people don't accept your superiority complex, answers, and attitudes. Dr. Means is a smart man. He put in place a strong plan with a strong team, which included Dr. Thomas. That's the time on that one.
Yes, it is.
The next one is from Lori Garrett Hatfield. Dear Dr. Gant and board members, I am writing to you today on two fronts. First, I would like to commend Dr. Thomas on her able leadership. As educators, our first priority is always the benefit of the children. It is difficult to teach on any given day, but it is much more difficult to teach when there is a lot of stress and uncertainty in the district. Since Dr. Thomas took over in December, many of us feel she has steered the ship very well through extremely trying times. I want the district to move forward, and I feel it will move forward with a woman of color and an Athens native at the helm. Second, as a high-risk teacher with a high-risk child who is part of an executive board of concerned teachers and parents, I have serious concerns about us opening school on August 3rd, especially given the rise in COVID-19 cases in Clark County and in the state as a whole. I would like to advocate for the district to postpone the start of school until the Tuesday after Labor Day. That will give the district the opportunity to further solidify the plans for reopening and what guidelines will need to be in place so that teachers, parents, and students feel safe and comfortable. For many of our students, school is the only place they do feel safe and loved, and I want that to continue. I appreciate your time and consideration. Dr. Lori Garrett Hatfield. The next letter is from Ginger Stickney. Dear Clark County Board of Education, as a teacher and a parent in the district, I have 3 concerns I'd like to raise in these comments. The first involves the paying of 2 superintendents. Dr. Thomas has done an excellent job in leading our district through these unusual times. Her leadership is exemplary, and I am convinced in both my roles of her love and attention for this district. Keeping her as superintendent also allows a smooth transition into what is going to be another unusual year. We need her steady hand and experience at this time more than ever. Before I begin my second set of comments, let me just say I am aware of the difficulties the task force faced in developing a reopening plan. There were many things to juggle, including the equity problems faced in distance learning. As a teacher, I know that face-to-face is hands down the best for our students, but I also know that face-to-face presents dangers to not just our at-risk population. As we continue to learn more about COVID-19, we are learning ever more ways this virus affects seemingly healthy people, including children. Which leads to my second concern. I am a high-risk teacher with rheumatoid arthritis. My doctor has already expressed concern about me returning to the classroom. In addition, those with RA are being shown to be more likely to need a ventilator if they do develop a bad case of COVID. I also live with a child who is in the risk category. I do not have the privilege to request FMLA and lose my income as I am a single parent. My choice is to return to work and risk getting very ill and maybe dying or lose my income. This is not a choice. I beg the board to reconsider options for your at-risk population. Lastly, my youngest child has Down syndrome and was in a self-contained classroom at Oglethorpe Avenue Elementary School. Due to her respiratory issues, as well as studies showing children with IDs have a higher rate of dying of COVID, I am electing to keep her home. However, I am concerned with the lack of information being offered regarding special education services, as well as IEP compliance. Many parents are going to face making a decision about their children with IEPs armed with zero information about how virtual learning will meet those needs. I also, as a teacher, do not wish to burden teachers who are already dealing with complex classroom situations with being responsible for online services. Thank you for your time. Ginger Stickney. This letter is from H. Cooper. Thank you for taking the time to read and consider these comments. I am certain the decisions you are facing in light of our current public health crisis are weighing heavily on your minds. Thank you for the work you are doing. I am a parent of a CCSD student and a member of the Athens local business community. I am very concerned that despite best intentions and efforts, a physical return to school this fall will lead to more COVID-19 cases in our already overwhelmed health system. I believe it is folly to think our schools can safely welcome faculty, staff, and students back to campus. This is an unprecedented challenge we are facing. We may one day have the public health infrastructure and the community social and economic safety nets in place to handle such a challenge, but we are not there yet. We are woefully short of meeting the requirements set forth by CDC and World Health Organization for reopening. As of today, our case numbers are rising at an alarming rate. Both our economy and our social fabric will suffer immensely if we continue to fail to slow the spread of this virus. To put our educators at risk, our support staff, our administrators, our children, and all their families at risk in the interest of forging ahead is short-sighted and foolhardy. I realize there are costs to keeping children at home in the fall. Our families need safe, affordable, and enriching childcare options. Here in Athens, I believe we have the creative and intellectual capacity to come up with some viable options to fulfill this need in the short term, while we take the necessary steps to hammer out the details of what a safe return to school looks like in the time of COVID-19. I plead with you to opt for virtual schooling at least through the end of 2020. Sincerely, M. Harriet Doherty. This letter is from Heather Stewart Dean. Good morning. I am a parent with a child in the Clark County school system. I'm writing to you today regarding several concerns I have with the CCSD plans for this school year. My understanding is that online learning will not be provided by CCSD teachers, but will be provided by an outside private company. If that is the case, the parents in our county need to know of those plans before they agree to online or in-person learning. I understand why you would go with an online system that is already up and running. However, can we try and utilize local teachers for online learning? Can we provide some positions for high-risk teachers in our schools? I don't understand why we would pay an outside company and not utilize the teachers within our district. I know we have teachers who are high risk who do not feel safe returning to work. Why would we not utilize their skills and expertise to provide digital instruction? How will IEPs and 504 plans be implemented? How will students receive their accommodations? How will IEP meetings occur with no teachers? How will IEPs be reevaluated? What association will students have with the school community as far as food programs, access to social services, and counselors? If local teachers are not teaching digitally, how will students' progress be monitored? How will the district confirm students are understanding the material? Will families speak to or receive any help from CCSD teachers if they choose digital learning? Will they have a way to check in? Why are high-risk teachers being told they must teach or take unpaid sick leave? Surely if we use some out-of-the-box thinking, we can find a way to have high-risk teachers handle digital learning as opposed to an outside company. This seems like an unwise use of our already limited funds. Thank you for listening to my concerns. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Best regards, Heather Dean. The next letter is from Isaiah Ellison. Greetings. This is to inform you that I support Dr. Means' platform and his agenda to bring about needed change in the Athens-Clarke County school system. The racism, ignorance, and disrespect shown to Black members of this community by many members of the current board is totally unacceptable and will not be tolerated. This community is resolved to fight back until each board member is held accountable for their action in this regard. Thank you for your attention to this urgent matter. Isaiah Ellison. The next member is from Jackie Sandun. Dear school board members, shortly after the pandemic attached and schools were closed, I assisted the team that was distributing school lunches. In an apartment complex near North Avenue, a man of about 50 stopped at the door to the bus and said to the driver and me how much he appreciated what the school district is doing, and added that he doesn't think the community realizes all that they do to make lives better for our citizens. The school district has been doing a wonderful job of reaching out to our families, not only to get lunch to families, but to deliver lessons through online and written work. I know the school district worked hard to make it happen, and the teachers spent their time and energy and personally contacting students. They deserve to be thanked, honored, and respected. I am writing now to vote against reinstating Dr. Means as superintendent. We need for the board to work together to improve education in the district. If Dr. Means is reinstated as superintendent, the faculty and staff and the community will continue to battle this out and disrupt the school district and the education of all of our children. Dr. Zernona Thomas has done an exemplary job in the position of interim superintendent. I thank her and applaud her work. I also ask that you do not fall into the trap of accepting contracts from the large computer companies that are calling superintendents daily offering to help. We don't need corporate help. We need faculty, teachers, support staff, and the board to work together to resolve issues caused by the pandemic and beyond. I think the teachers did a fantastic job of working with their students once the pandemic closed the school district. It just shows what teachers can do in spite of all the extra time and energy that went into keeping education going. I've been in your place on the board and I know how difficult it can be, so I admire and respect you for assuming your role on the board and taking it seriously. As a parent of a CCSD graduate, a citizen of Clarke County, and a former school board member and school board president, I ask that you vote against bringing Dr. Means back as a superintendent, and that you studiously explore the kind of virtual learning you want to use to supplement the teacher's work. Learning should be in the hands of the teachers, whether they work in the classroom or from home. The next letter is from Jamie Mays. I'm aghast at the email that went out to teachers this week. It is heartless to ask teachers if they're willing to return to school when you're not giving them any indicators as to what they're returning to. It is heartless to suggest that a teacher who gets sick has no safety net except 10 weeks of unpaid leave. It takes 3 months before someone is well enough after the virus. Shame on you. The next letter is from Janet Frick. Dear members of the CCSD School Board, I just want to take a moment to express appreciation for the hard work everyone in the district has been doing to prepare our classrooms and our students for a return to instruction this fall. It has been reassuring to know that our district decision-making is being guided by the wise direction of Dr. Zernona Thomas, who has shown outstanding leadership during the time since she was appointed to lead the district. From my conversations with parents and teachers in the district, the community is more united than ever and is eager to move forward in the months and years to come. Given the financial uncertainty and probable budget cuts that are looming for our district, I encourage and indeed implore all of you to wrap things up with our former superintendent and wrap up his contract as soon as possible. Psychologically, as well as financially, it is harming our district to keep him hanging on. Our community needs closure on that chapter and to move forward under Dr. Thomas and whoever our next permanent superintendent will be. Respectfully, Janet Frick, mom of a class of 2020 graduate and a rising sophomore at Cedar Shoals. The next letter is from Jennifer Wyrick. Hello, CCSD School Board. I am the parent of one current CCSD student, rising 10th grader, and one CCSD graduate, class of 19. Both of my children have been enrolled in CCSD since kindergarten or pre-K. I have been an active parent in each of my children's schools. I support the teachers, principals, and staff of CCSD. My children have received an excellent education in this district. I would like to say that I think Dr. Thomas has done an excellent job as interim superintendent. She has vast knowledge of the school system and a personal investment in our community in being a native Athenian. I did my personal research in Dr. Means's background and employment history. I watched the school board meetings from his previous school district and noticed that they alarmingly mirrored ours. I am against corporate for-profit education on a one-size-fits-all platform. Also, based on his treatment of CCS teacher, principals, and staff, I do not have confidence in abilities to lead our district. I hope that our board is able to come to an agreement with him to end the contract and hire a new superintendent quickly. I hate that those funds continue to detract from our students that he cares for so very much. Not that I have a vote in the matter, but Dr. Thomas would have been mine. As a parent, I have confidence in her abilities as a leader thus far. Let's move on. We have 4 weeks until school starts, and COVID numbers in Georgia continue to climb at alarming rates. Our household is certainly restless from staying in so much and would love to get back to normal. Back in May, I was hopeful for some version of in-person school for the fall. I completed the Google Docs survey sent to parents. At that time, I felt there could be some safe version of in-person school, but not anymore. Judging by what I've seen when I've been out in the community, I don't have confidence in sending her back to a classroom anytime soon. I have doubts that teachers will be able to monitor or enforce social distancing and mask wearing at all times, in addition to everything else they must do to educate our kids. I'm hoping CCSD has a plan for distance learners and will outline that soon. I don't want to withdraw her and the funding that comes with her attendance in CCSD schools. Please let us know your plans soon so I can plan accordingly. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Jennifer Wyrick, parent of a rising 10th grader at Clark Central High School. This next letter is from Janine Delane. Dear Dr. Lakeisha Gant, we, the people of Clark County, demand Dr. Means' reinstatement as superintendent of the Clark County School District immediately. The continued undermining of Dr. Means' transparent educational leadership and direction places our students at greater risk for underdevelopment and long-term economic disenfranchisement and will not be tolerated. Dr. Means' antagonists have strategically designed a public character assassination and harassment campaign for his firm stance on education equity and inclusion of all students. The unlawful and unwarranted racial, economic, and politically motivated practices of a few do not represent the interest of all. Such actions not only harm Dr. Means, but also teacher morale, students, families, and the greater community interest at large. We, the people of Clark County, are satisfied with the work of Dr. Means and his commitment to prioritizing students. We furthermore pledge to stand behind Dr. Means in his continued development of strong leadership teams, school administrators, and ongoing professional development of district educators, void of bias and inequality in the school setting. Signed by Janine Delane and over 205 Clark County residents via change.org. The next letter is from Jenny Rushing. As a concerned stakeholder in CCSD, I feel compelled to share my thoughts and concerns for the upcoming school year. My biggest concerns are as follows. 1, teacher and staff safety and compensation. Ensure that staff members that are exposed get the appropriate testing, medical care, supplies, cleaning supplies, and salary. This also includes sick time. A teacher will most likely be exposed to COVID numerous times throughout the year. What safety measures are in place to ensure the teacher is not constantly using accumulated sick time for the necessary protocols and thus not risking the lives of family members, other staff, or students? Students, how can we be sure that each child has access to appropriate medical care? How can we guarantee that a parent is following protocols? What happens if a student begins to show symptoms at school? Will there be other nurses on staff at each school? Most schools only have one nurse. Mask wearing, social distancing, etc. are also concerns. 3, IEPs, students with IEPs. What are your plans with students in self-contained classes where social distancing is not an option? 4, bus routes, substitute teachers. These were both difficult positions to fill in a non-pandemic year. How can you ensure that bus routes will be properly staffed and protocols will be in place so that health and safety isn't compromised? 5, all of the numerous safety and health measures that come with students and staff sharing the same ventilated air all day long. Specials, lunch, classroom setups to allow social distancing. What if a child refuses to wear a mask or if a parent refuses for a child to wear a mask? Can the public please view the responses to the first survey from June? Alternatives I hope you will consider. Split schedules, A/B days where students alternate classroom time and online learning time, utilizing other local community buildings for children who need after-school care or access to the internet. Virtual learning, staff members who are only in charge of online learning for their grade level. Allow the option for students to do only virtual learning. A later start date to the school year to see how UGA's start date impacts our community's COVID numbers. FYI, please follow Dr. Amber Schmidtke's data analysis. She is advocating for virtual learning this year as our numbers in Georgia pose a great risk for public health and our health system. Clark County is currently number 1 in the number of COVID cases in our region. Please consider our community voices. Our teachers, our staff, and students deserve it. Respectfully, Jenny Rushing, Oglethorpe Avenue Elementary School parent. This is my last one. This is Jessica Magnarella. Thanks for taking questions and all your hard work on a difficult task. My son will be at BHL this fall. I don't feel like I have enough information to make a decision for online or in school. I'd like to see the online platform and try it out and know exactly how protective measures for the in-school days will be handled. My main question is, why not delay school start until after Labor Day so that parents and teachers can have more answers and more safety precautions in place? That is my family's preference. If it is a matter of folks needing childcare to go to work, perhaps a limited enrollment option for an after-school type program with extreme safety measures for the month of August could be created. Thank you, Jessica. And I think I'm done. So next is Linda. Linda, you're muted.
We can't hear you.
Boy, I was halfway done. Sorry. Okay. This first letter is from Jill Gambill. And it is, Dear Dr. Thomas and CCSD Board of Education, in the plans announced this week, Clark County School District is putting the lives of teachers and their families at risk by forcing them to teach in person. CCSD is offering completely inadequate accommodations to teachers who have underlying health conditions. My understanding from the staff letter sent out yesterday is that if a vulnerable teacher opts out of in-person instruction, they must use their hard-earned sick leave. Then they will get 2 weeks of paid leave, and after that, they will be on unpaid leave. This policy is going to force at-risk employees into the classroom because they cannot afford to go without their paycheck. This policy will disproportionately affect employees in lower-paying positions, creating an equity issue, especially for employees who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC, and are already disproportionately at risk of hospitalization and death from the virus. Additionally, in determining which employees are vulnerable to the impacts of COVID-19, the district should consider the health and safety of at-risk spouses, children, and elderly family members, as in-person instruction will increase the exposure of entire families to the virus. CCSD must also recognize that teachers of younger grades and those working with special education students will not be able to consistently social distance or enforce mask wearing. I have 2 children in special education, and those classrooms are very hands-on by necessity. Teachers must physically guide and redirect students, separate students, and comfort students. Verbal instruction is not always sufficient with this population. By forcing those who work with younger students and special education students to provide in-person instruction, the district is unduly imperiling those employees. Excuse me. CCSD should be trying to reduce the number of bodies in schools in order to minimize the spread of COVID-19 and reduce the risk to teachers. You could do this by encouraging families to sign up for distance digital learning or by offering hybrid options beyond high school. This should allow teachers the choice of teaching remotely. At-risk teachers should have priority in providing online learning so that they can continue earning their paychecks. In-person instruction should be prioritized for special education students, students without internet, and students whose families cannot accommodate remote learning. If a teacher is willing to provide in-person instruction, they should be compensated accordingly based on the increased risk. If any CCSD teachers providing face-to-face instruction contract COVID-19, they should not have to use their sick leave while they are self-isolating and recovering. CCSD should support them fully throughout their illness, giving them paid leave and maybe even covering medical expenses, especially if they were exposed to the virus while doing their jobs. No teacher should go bankrupt from hospital bills as a result of doing their job. And thank you, and that finishes that first part of the sentence. Okay, and great. My next one. Oops, I just closed the whole thing out. Give me a second here. That was Jill. This is Jonas Jenkins. My name is Jonas. I live in Athens, and I have concerns for both students and teachers about return to school in person. Why are employed teachers not being used to teach distance learning instead of a private company? Is the emergency FMLA under the CARES Act, which requires 12 weeks of paid leave, going to be used for teachers with health conditions? FMLA only covers 2 paid weeks and 10 unpaid weeks, but it should be the EFMLA now. Also, what happens if the pandemic continues beyond the 12 weeks? Why are teachers with health conditions not being given reasonable accommodations, such as telework, like doing the distance learning? Can you explain how this does not violate ADA? Jonas. This is from Julie Powell. Dear Dr. Thomas and BOE, could the district provide us more information about the online learning option? I don't have enough information to make a decision by the deadline as it now stands. My daughter will be in 2nd grade. 1, who will do the teaching for online learning? 2, will my child have a homeroom teacher that will be monitoring her progress and interfacing with her? If so, what will that look like? How much interaction will there be? 3, will the online learning curriculum be the same as in person? 4, what will the online learning curriculum be? 5, what would a typical day look like, a typical week? 6, how will my child be assessed? Will there be a CCSD working with her regarding that assessment and its results? 7, what are her resources if she is struggling with the concept? What CCSD teachers will be able to help her? 8, what software and apps will be used? 9, if a student chooses in-person learning and finds the conditions unsafe, how soon can the student transfer to online learning? How will that process work? 10, what is the plan if, when there is a positive case of COVID at the school? Shut down entire school, pod, grade, classroom? For how long? Is online learning a better option if there is a pattern of in-person 1 week, then home for 2? 11, will there be any prep given to in-person students to prepare them for online learning should they need to stay home due to self-quarantine or a school closure? 12, If there are 100 second graders enrolled in my child's school and 50 choose in-person learning, will the classes be smaller? Will you combine classes? If you combine classes, will the extra teachers have online learning classrooms? I am not in favor of online learning divorced from CCSD teachers taking the primary lead and functioning like classroom teachers for my child. Outsourcing education completely will not work for us. At 7 years old, my daughter needs a trained teacher who knows her and can interact with her on a daily basis to complement any instruction by software and applications. I support assigning teachers, especially those who are not able to teach in-person classes in the current environment, being assigned to online education. Thank you, Julie Caldwell. My next letter is Kayla McSherry. Dear Superintendent Thomas, Dr. Gant, and members of the board, I am writing this letter as a parent of a CCSD student. First, I would like to address the issue of 2 superintendents currently on the payroll. I commend the leadership of Dr. Thomas during these trying times and appreciate the commitment she has shown to the district. I feel it is time to move on from the past and allow Dr. Thomas to lead us into a more equitable and just future for all children in the CCSD school district. Secondly, I am concerned with the plan for reopening schools in the fall. I am glad to see there is a virtual option for all students, but I have yet to hear how it will be implemented. There are a great number of advantages to students being taught by teachers in their community rather than an outside firm or administration. 70% of parents who answered the survey in June reported they would be interested in a virtual option, as well as 54% of teachers. And I imagine those numbers would be even higher given the current trajectory of COVID-19. Those who want to teach virtually could facilitate online learning for the students at home instead. There are many teachers who are high risk, live in multi-generational homes, or have family members who are high risk. I have heard their only option is to take their sick leave, 2 weeks paid leave, and then 10 weeks unpaid leave. But that doesn't fix the problem long-term, nor does it fulfill their desire to work and serve students. Teachers and staff should be treated with empathy, not disregarded for having totally rational fears in time of COVID. Teachers and staff have the right to feel safe at work. Reported cases of COVID-19 in Clark County have increased 46% in the last 7 days, and testing capacities have been strained. Hospitalizations are on the rise and beds are limited. It is becoming an inherently risky environment for all people, not just those in specific high-risk categories. And COVID-19 is impacting a disproportionate amount of Black and Brown people in our community. I understand that face-to-face interactions are highly valuable for a myriad of reasons, and I am interested to see how the district plans to best reach our students with IEPs who may be high risk while also needing valuable personal interaction, as well as more vulnerable students in our schools. I hope that the additional space freed up by those students learning at home can provide for smaller class sizes and additional opportunities for outdoor play where the risk of spread is greatly lowered. Training teachers in social, emotional, and culturally responsive instruction, as well as providing ample time spent outside, is so vital for students who have spent the last few months isolated from their peers. In order to best plan for the upcoming school year, it would be advantageous for school to delay reopening until September. This would give teachers a month to coordinate virtual learning plans, as well as promote guidelines that focus on safety of teachers, staff, students, and the community at
Ms.
large.
Davis, time
first.
is up.
Thank you. Instead of as an afterthought. That ends that sentence. And this is, that was Kayla. This is Katie Woods. Dear Dr. Thomas, I am writing to express my concern over the details of the letter that CCSD teachers received today. In this letter, there is no mention of a distance learning option nor of a hybrid model. The leave options cited in the letter seem wholly insufficient, and I am deeply concerned about the risk to teachers that reopening as usual poses. It is also worth noting that the tone of the letter is callous and almost cruel, mentioning how being fearful or not feeling safe is not an excuse to miss work is a incredibly disrespectful and sensitive thing to say to teachers who are legitimately scared for their lives. We are on the cusp of having 30,000 college students return to town. Our cases of COVID are already rising. The impact of UGA students returning to campus remains yet to be seen, but it is not difficult to predict what will happen as we are seeing more and more cases of COVID in college-aged people across the state. We should delay the start of school until after Labor Day, as they do in many areas of the country, so we can better gauge the impact of this influx of students. I believe that schools need to be open to some children, parents who do not have childcare or children who cannot engage in distance learning need help. Some students need a safe place. They need food. Some children need services they cannot receive at home or in the community. The only way we can protect children, families, and CCSD employees is by having less bodies in the building and ensuring access to critical supplies like disinfectant and hand washing supplies and masks, which must be mandatory. We must have an online option for students and teachers who will be compromised by COVID-19. We need to consider virtual learning exclusively for upper grades and to consider spreading students out amongst buildings closest to their homes. I realize that hybrid models require more teachers, nurses, and custodians. We have to find the funds for this, most likely in the administrative budget. I realize that these are incredibly trying times. My heart breaks a little every day that I wake up and see more evidence that we live in a country that cares very little for its citizens. I am so disappointed, but I have taken solace in the fact that Athens and CCSD seem better than that. I have been impressed with your leadership throughout this crisis and was so hopeful that CCSD would not be another source of disappointment. I adore this district. I adore my child's school. I wish more than anything that she could go back as if this were a normal school year, but it is not. I am a staunch supporter of public education and have never in my life considered homeschooling a viable way to build a healthy society. However, if CCSD cannot provide a distance learning option for my child, I will be forced to disenroll her and find a private virtual option for her. I am tearing up at the very idea of this.
Ms. Davis, time's up.
Thank you. That's the end of that sentence. Okay. And that was Woods, okay? And my next one is, that's Katie Woods. Kathleen DeWar. Dear Dr. Gant and CCSD School Board, as a CCSD parent, I was disturbed by the letter that was sent to CCSD faculty and staff on 7/6/20, giving minimal return information and asking for a response. The letter casually dismissed perfectly reasonable concerns as fear in quotation marks. CCSD employees should not have to choose between their livelihood and the health of their families. CCSD needs to make working remotely an option for faculty and staff whenever possible. Limiting the number of people in the building will make everyone safer, and I trust CCSD employees to work remotely. Kathleen Falk, parent of a rising kindergartner and second grader at OAES. My next letter is from Kathleen DeWar. Let me make sure I got that right. I think this is the one that I just read. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. And this next letter is from Catherine Chetney. Dear CCSD BOE, I am writing to support the end of the Clark County School District paying 2 superintendent salaries. Specifically, I support separating Dr. Means from the CCSD's payroll. Some of my thoughts recently posted to Facebook are included here. He is a bully. He drove out Maxwell for no reason, and his actions only hurt minority kids in a school which had already been hurt several times via leadership turnover. Although the empty words are there, his supporters' posts never seem to point out examples of his alleged helpful actions. However, there are many examples of his unhelpful behavior. Is there an online petition which could be submitted to the BOE in the form of one document with several names rather than several emails, letters? Parents would need to identify their name, grade level, but not student name of each of their students' school names, such that BOE could corroborate actual stakeholders. Or could it be sent to the accreditation agency? I was quite disappointed and a bit shocked that the accreditation agency seemed to only listen to one side, and now his supporters are using his same bully tactics to keep him in the running for something he didn't deserve. I read some articles from where he came from, and there were relationship issues there as well. I wonder which community resources we have to help create an online petition which could be both secure and verifiable. I would want to make sure any online form used had those features. I was a stakeholder when Mr. Maxwell was ousted, and then accreditation threatened with 2 juniors and then seniors at CSHS. My seniors did graduate this year, but I believe I could still be considered a stakeholder since they were affected by what happened with Maxwell and could have had accreditation pulled during their senior year. My 2 seniors graduated from Cedar Shoals High School effective May 2020. I am in agreement with the BOE's original decision for placing him on leave and him now needing to be moving on. When he replied to their decision to hold him accountable at the lowest level, i.e. simple verbal or written warning rather than further outside involvement, he basically stated his objective. If, in other words, if you discipline me, then I prefer you remove me. Even though he later apologized, there had been previous examples of him using the if-then thinking as a basis of behavior decisions. How can they make it work when there seems to be no demonstration of him desiring to meet them halfway? Furthermore, I agree with the following post from a different commenter on Facebook. We need a superintendent who sees addressing racial inequality as a top priority and need to express solidarity on that front while also making it clear that we're not okay with wasteful spending. Stop at that comma. Thank you. And this next letter is from, Katrina Evans. Dear Dr. Gant and board members, thank you for your continued hard work in our district. As the district team deliberates over COVID strategies, I'd like to suggest that small investments are made in the schools to allow for increased outdoor classroom spaces. Outdoor learning time has obvious social and emotional benefits, but in this era of COVID, it can lower stress of students and staff while enhancing the safety of their learning environment. Outdoor shade devices like sun sails and simple seating of natural elements could go a long way and would be used in heavy rotation in our schools. The time to implement such low cost improvements is now. Beyond the COVID challenges, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the very hard work that Dr. Thomas and her team has been doing inside the district. But my many teacher friends have reported that her efforts have become a stabilizing force. That is such refreshing information to hear from teaching staff who have felt bullied and blamed in the past years. It seems that our district staff is ready to roll up their sleeves to meet the challenges they face, whether it's COVID hunger, funding cuts, or racial injustice head on. The hindrance is the former superintendent lurking in the background. He is in the ear of many inside CCSD, and it seems like many staff members are put in a difficult position with their current boss or the former superintendent. For the sake of the district, please conclude the exit negotiations of this former superintendent. Dr. Means lit the match and started the accreditation fire a year ago. His actions are still jeopardizing our schools, but now he wants to return and pull that very fire out. It makes absolutely no sense. Set aside the fact that he initiated his own exit. Please make the hard decision and set us on solid foundation. The longer it takes, the more the divisiveness continues to erode all that is possible inside CCSD. Thanks, Katrina Evans. My next letter is from Kelly Hayes. How will CCSD special education in the upcoming, I'm sorry, let me start over. Number one, how will CCSD include special education in the upcoming school year? Sensory issues could definitely prevent mass. Would homebound be an option, not virtual schooling, as it wouldn't fulfill one's complete IEP, requiring a speech language pathologist, etc. Number two, if we have to provide PPE for other children enrolled in CCSD, could we lift uniforms as PPE, and uniforms would be more cost? Some parents have several children. Number three, our teachers are very important in education, clearly. Some teachers have compromised immune systems, medical conditions, etc., and or children, family with the same problem. Why are their family less than another? This is from, is it Catherine? One second, I think I did that one, okay. Yes, so my next one is Catherine, I did Kelly. This is Kelly Hayes. I just finished Kelly Hayes, sorry guys. This one is, yes, Catherine Chetney. That's long. Okay. Dear CCSD BOE, I am writing to support the end of the Clark County School District paying 2 superintendent salaries. Specifically, I support separating Dr. Means from the CCSD's payroll. Some of my thoughts recently posted to Facebook are included here. Sounds redundant.
I think you read this one already.
Okay, maybe I had it in here twice, I apologize. All right, so Chetney is done. Okay. And I think
The next one I see is Kendra Klein.
Kendra Klein, right, okay, thank you. Kendra Klein. Dear Clark County Board of Education, I will try to keep this brief as I know you are receiving many emails from concerned CCSD staff, parents, and community members. My name is Kendra Klein and I have a 3-year-old son who attends special ed preschool at the ELC. My son turned 3 in April after the district had already closed down in-person school due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We were lucky enough to complete his assessments before the shutdown, although his IEP meeting was conducted through Zoom. So much was unknown at the time. Many hoped the shutdown would last only a few weeks and school would reopen again before the end of the year. Now we find ourselves in July and it is hard to believe the optimism we felt in April. My son did not receive the services listed in his IEP in the spring. While this was frustrating, I chose to be understanding given that everyone, the district, teachers, staff, and parents all found themselves thrown into this chaotic situation. And I believed and hoped that together we would find our way out. I have waited all summer for communication from the district, from my son's IEP team, for some acknowledgement that many children with IEPs were failed in the spring. I have been waiting on an email reply from someone at the district only to find out that person retired and did not pass on my request to anyone else. The words special education and IEP are completely absent from the letter you sent to parents on July 7th, 2020. I am including at the end of this statement a letter sent to Richard Woods, State School Superintendent, and the State Board of Education, written by the SPLC, GAO, and several other advocacy groups in the state. As they note, during the COVID-19 epidemic, students eligible for special education services have experienced disruptions to their individualized education plans, IEPs, including gaps in services and significant modifications in-service delivery. Thus far, the district has not addressed how they will ensure FAPE, free appropriate public education, in the fall if parents of children with IEPs select hybrid or remote learning options. As it stands, school is slated to begin on August 3rd in a little over 3 weeks. You have asked families to decide about the school placement by July 17th. This leaves 6 business days for IEP teams to convene, hold meetings, and determine how to provide FAPE to children with disabilities. I do not see how this is possible. I have no doubt that the district has spent the summer in endless meetings trying to figure out how to reopen schools safely, how to determine what safe even means, how to do this difficult task after decades of budget cuts at the state level. We owe it to everyone, to staff, parents, to children, to push the start date for the school year back, to spend more time on this challenging issue, to put teachers, parents, and public health professionals on the reopening task force. Rushing to reopen the district for in-person classes is a mistake. Lives are at risk. Thank you. And that ended that letter. This is Klein. Okay. And my next letter is, am I right, Christy Shaler?
Right.
I write as a concerned citizen of Athens, I understand that you intend to outsource online teaching. This is unnecessary given we have teachers in the CCSD whose health will be compromised by being in the classroom and exposed to others. These teachers can and should teach the online classes. This is a solution to a very unusual problem and keeps these teachers employed and working. Sincerely, Christy Shaler, PhD. Next is Lauren Baker. Am I right? Yeah. So CCSD, please think about what long-term mental effects this twice a week with limited socialization will have on children. Children need socialization and learning. Both parents and children need the structure that 5 days a week public school offers. Children with IEP need 5 days a week school. My son, who has a speech disorder, did not get any speech therapy during the closures. This was detrimental to him, just like it will be if he only gets school twice a week. Please follow the way Idaho and Utah and have a traditional school year with extra cleaning protocol in place. As tax-paying citizens, please listen to the majority of parents who are in favor of a traditional school year. The majority has spoken. Please listen. Let our voices be heard. We support you now. Please support us. Sent from my iPhone. Okay. And next is that was Lauren before. And this is now Fred Smith.
Lee Smith.
Oh, I'm sorry, it says Fred at the top. After the horrific George Floyd incident that took place on May 25th, 2020, which was witnessed by the world via cell phone video, the country is in a period of racial awakening. As we move through this period, I reflect on the issues we are dealing with here in Athens. A negative detour was taken in students' education when our superintendent, Dr. Damon Means, was placed on administrative leave based on what I consider to be blatant racism. If you reflect for a moment and be completely honest in your thought, you will remember that throughout history, African Americans were often blamed for the injustice of which they were victims. Misguided as this is, it is true. Unfortunately, Dr. Damon Means is being blamed by some members of the school board and community for the racism directed toward him. He is blamed for being, I'm so sorry. He is blamed for being an exceptionally talented African-American superintendent who was doing the job he was hired to do, ensuring that the focus was on all students receiving a quality education. He was transparent about the need for equity in education and implemented positive steps it did make a difference. He was blamed because he would not allow himself to be controlled by white privilege interest groups supporting a status quo like a puppet on a string. When a white school board member slams his fist down on the superintendent's desk and yells at him in contempt for his authority, is it wrong? It is wrong. Is it wrong? And racism is a question. When a white board member attends her first meeting as a board member and publicly calls the African-American superintendent a liar, is it wrong or racism? I think this one is a play from the racial handbook. When a white board member walks in an African-American church during an annual celebration and reads a poem with phrases like, "Do you believe in the great white race? Boy, could it be that you're assassing me," and using the N-word, is it wrong or racism? When white board members vote to protect their fellow white board members' racist actions, is it power of white privilege and racism? Americans are in an unprecedented period facing its racist present and past. Some white Americans are truly grappling with this, recognizing how it diminishes all of us. I respectfully ask the Athens-Clarke County School Board members to move through the depths of your heart on any action taken tonight towards Dr. Means. Separate facts from deep-rooted attitudes. He was beginning to improve this in education of African-American students in a way this community had not seen before. For instance, third graders at high poverty, high minority Howard Stroud Elementary School led the district in reading on the 2019 Milestones test. And I will end there. Respectfully, Lee Smith. Okay. And next up, Lenora Sierra. Dear Dr. Thomas and members of the board, I understand that our community, like many others, needs to make some incredibly hard decisions over the coming months, and you have the unenviable task of taking on a big part of that responsibility. However, the letter that was sent to parents today raises more questions than answers. You are asking parents to make decisions with limited information, and I have separately sent in all my questions through the online form. I also have some concerns that I would like to raise. At the core of any educational system are the people, the students, the teachers, and the staff. Children do not only go to school to learn math and reading and facts, they become part of a community. And it is those interactions with their peers and teachers that have a central role in shaping who they will become. I was therefore dismayed at the language used in the letter sent to the teachers of this district and its dismissiveness about concerns they might have over their safety. We are in the middle of a pandemic where 130,000 people have died and many others will be left with long-term problems. I think having concerns is natural. Concerns, for example, for a household member that could die if they were to catch COVID-19. An online system will never replace the community of student builds in school, but we can attempt in these difficult times with few good options to come up with something that will help support those students beyond learning materials. Students will be scared and stressed and confused, especially the youngest ones that will only partly understand what is happening after all this time. They need more than a machine on the other side. They need a teacher that can bond with them emotionally as much as possible as well. In-person schooling will not be a possibility, even the risk mitigation for many students, be it because they are at risk or they live with someone who is. I would like to understand the rationale by which instead of asking our teachers in CCSD to provide online teaching, we will be outsourcing this to a company at a cost of over $800,000, if I understand correctly. Why not invest some of that money in supporting teachers and students here in CCSD? So when this is all over, the benefits will remain in this community. Why not also make sure that any high-risk teachers get a chance to continue teaching by coordinating the online portion? It has been 4 months since schools closed, and this is time that could have been spent preparing these options, but we still have time to act. I understand that you are voting on the iReady system tomorrow. I have concerns about what that means for our teachers. The bad reviews it gets, concerns about the use of students' data and the cost. That's Lenora Sierra. And okay, am I getting to my end? Nope. This is M. White. To CCSD leaders, I appreciated getting the letter today with more details about what opening schools for the school year will look like. I would like to know more about the online learning that will be offered. It seems very likely, given the rising numbers of COVID cases in Northeast Georgia, that the schools will have to shut down again at some point, and all students will be learning online. I would very much like to see online classes led by our local teachers, and for those teachers to have the training and resources to create engaging and challenging online courses. I don't want to see generic online content that will leave our students bored, frustrated, and unengaged with the material. For better or worse, online learning seems to be the wave of the future. Why not give our local teachers the chance to get better at it, especially those with I think it's comorbidities, which give them an increased risk for COVID-19. I hope I pronounced that correctly. To be honest, the online offerings from CCSD this spring were not very engaging or challenging, at least to my middle schooler. I'm sure the teachers will get more skilled at it and learn how to make it work better. Please don't hire an outside agency to take over online teaching when our local teachers could make it so much more personal and interesting. I'd also like for the online classes to have a social element to help the kids feel connected to their teachers and classmates. Let's face it, online learning may be a huge part of what school is for the next 1 to 2 years for all ages. Let's empower CCSD teachers and keep their jobs and do them well, even remotely. Sincerely, Marcy White, CCSD parent. And I think this might be my last one. I'm not sure. This is Madeline Hall. Yes, this is going to be my last one. Good afternoon. I am writing to request, I am writing to request that the board revisit the plans the task force has put in place for the reopening of our schools. First of all, we're in the middle of a crisis with the worst numbers we have ever seen yet. This does not seem to have been addressed in any meaningful fashion in the staff or parent communications. We can't just pretend that we are at a low and safer point in this crisis when our numbers are higher than ever. Further, there is currently no plan to limit the number of people in schools. If all families wish to return, schools could be filled with a minimum of 400 children and adults at a time. An alternating schedule, whether AM, PM, or alternate days of instruction, would eliminate so many people in an enclosed space at any given time. Even our grocery stores limit the number of visitors who enter at any given time. Families who choose distance learning will free up some space, but I would note that space is totally out of our control and that the wording of the parent survey discouraged choice of this option. With an alternating hours or day plan, we could control who is in the building when, in a way that doesn't simply ignore that the total number has a huge impact on safety. Our schools don't have the ventilation for the aerosols expelled by a large number of people for hours on end, and our staff and students don't have PPE to protect them adequately for that kind of exposure. Cloth masks are not meant for repeated and sustained exposure to scores of people, some of whom will not adhere to the mere suggestion, not requirement, to wear a mask at all. Only hospitals are currently operating with that number of people inside a building, and their ventilation and protective gear are far superior to what our students and staff will have available. If there have been improvements to the ventilation and air filtration systems that make the air much safer than previously, those improvements have not been shared with stakeholders. There are inadequate answers for our staff regarding pay as well. FMLA with 10 weeks of unpaid leave is a punishment for our staff at risk. Why can't these people work from home? It's not everyone in our district. We should protect them. Letters from Lenduke also state that staff will be asked to stay home if running a fever or needing to be quarantined. What if this happens repeatedly due to being repeatedly exposed in the workplace? Workers who are not allowed to work shouldn't be penalized. Again, the option of working from home should be an option here, since the teaching staff in this position will most assuredly be grading, conducting digital classes or conferences, speaking with parents, etc. As a side note, the tone of Lenduke's email
Davis,
to,
that is
yes,
the end of the 3 minutes.
okay, great. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Dear Dr. Thomas, first of all, thank you for your service to the community in serving as superintendent. I'm sure the position has been challenging and exhausting, but I do hope it has been rewarding as well. Our family really appreciates the job you have been doing. I am writing out of concern for teachers at the county who may have underlying health conditions or may be over 50 years old and are being required to go back to work or take unpaid leave this fall. I have real concerns that people will have to choose between putting bread on their tables and risking their lives. I have friends who are type 1 diabetes or are 4 years away from retirement who have given their lives to our county's students. Now they are having to choose between making their next mortgage payment or surviving this pandemic. I believe the board should revisit this decision. I won't go on and on. I will be sending my children back for in-person learning this fall as possible. My family is fortunate in that we do not have any elderly relatives living with us or underlying health conditions. It just seems like so many in our community are left making very real life or death decisions. And that's signed Maddie and Carmi Fishnet. And they are parents of 3 CCSD students. And Linda, I can still hear you. Okay, I am emailing to express my strong desire that our school district finish cutting ties with the Demond Means as soon as possible. I have watched in disappointment at the damage he has done to our school system. If we want good teachers and principals, the backbone of our schools, to stay, we need to be done with him and move forward now. Mary Gold. Hello. I recently saw a letter sent from Human Resources to CCSD personnel that outlined some basic information regarding the return to school. I was extremely upset to read the descriptions of the types of leave available to employees, not to mention the overall condescending and unfeeling tone of the letter, particularly in regards to people who fear for their safety upon returning to work. CCSD absolutely must do better in providing safety nets for employees who are taking the risk of COVID-19 seriously, either for themselves or for loved ones at home. We cannot ask them to put themselves and their families at risk with an ultimatum and flimsy 2-week paid sick leave policy. Many who contract COVID-19 have a course of symptomatic illness that persists for weeks, even months. Please, please reconsider what the district is asking of these essential employees and how it can be better served those who are serving our community. These are the absolute minimum measures that must be taken. First, there must be alternate at-home employment or unemployment benefits of some sort offered to employees who choose not to risk their health and that of their families by returning to crowded schools that have the potential to become petri dishes of viral spread. Second, unlimited paid sick leave with strong policies in place requiring any employee who displays signs and symptoms of COVID-19 to remain home until symptom-free for an appropriate period of time as determined by respected medical guidelines. Third, paid unemployment benefits or leave for employees whose own child care closes due to COVID-19 for the entire time that the child care is unavailable. In addition, I would like to see options for staggering shifts or school days, allowing for fewer people in school buildings at a time, and hopefully providing alternate schedules for employees who have childcare issues of their own. CCSD should be ashamed of the letter it sent out and must pivot immediately to a position that makes it clear that employees are the most valued asset of the district. Sincerely, Mary Pat Provost. Dr. Thomas and Ms. Palmer, I wasn't sure if this was the best way to write you regarding school opening, but I am very concerned, not just for the kids, but for their teachers. August 3rd is too early given the current rise in cases, not only in Georgia, but in Clark County as well. I am concerned that the university is seemingly not doing anything about enforcement of mask wearing, which leaves our whole county at risk. I want what is best for our kids, and I want them back at school. I just don't want them, and most definitely their teachers, bus drivers, custodial staff, and cafeteria staff at a higher risk because of rushing back. I also understand that not every child in CCSD has the same home as my own, and I understand that it presents its own challenges for teaching the underserved children. I know that no one has all the answers, and I applaud you all for the work you are doing. Please consider delaying the start of school until after Labor Day. I do not say that lightly. I have children at all levels at CCSD, elementary, middle, and high school. My high schooler is in the marching band and is enrolled in AP classes. I know the need for him to be in front of his teachers for learning. My middle schooler, being at CMS, hasn't really had much time to adjust to middle school, and add into that the fact that she is in the band program and hasn't had instruction in that class for 6 months. My soon-to-be third grader didn't thrive during online classes. I know my kids want to be in school. I know they need to be in school. I just don't know if throwing them back while cases are rising, and I am sure this holiday weekend will bring yet another huge spike in cases. I am not the only concerned parent, and I know you know that. I also know that you can not make everyone happy. The teachers, staff, bus drivers, cafeteria staff all deserve for this to be well thought out and thorough. The kids deserve the same. Thank you, Melinda Von Conthong. This letter covers most everything our city needs to be addressing before we put the lives of our teachers, staff, and students at high risk. I hope you realize that if you start school, many teachers will not show up. Many are high risk and people are scared. What will you do with the students then? What if we could organize teachers to go teach outside poorer communities with pop-up shelters so there's so much less risk? organize pop-ups around town with materials and teachers teaching outside. If it's raining, we call the day off. There are so many different ways we could handle this crisis. Let's protect lives and think outside the box. We are intelligent people. Please see the letter for questions to be addressed. And I think that this is a link to another document. And that was written by Melissa Freeman. Montgomery Wolf. I was shocked and dismayed to learn recently that a settlement has not been reached and demand means what demand means, which means CCSD is currently paying 2 superintendents. This needs to end. I urge the board to find a way to move forward and severe ties with means. That's Montgomery Wolf. Hello. I would like to please have an online option for Clark Middle and Clark Central High School. I understand the extreme difficulty the school district will have in conducting all the safety measures, and I don't feel sure it will be possible to have face-to-face classes without spreading of COVID, despite all the Herculean efforts of all the educators. For this reason, I would like to subtract my kids from that equation. They can thrive in an online school setting, so I don't see the reason to put them back in that mix. Please keep me posted about the potential of this option. Thank you for your time. Meyer Root. Dear Clark County Board of Education, my name is Natalie Ferraro, and this will be my 16th year teaching in Clark County. I am currently an EIP teacher for grades 1 through 4. I love working in this community. I love the people, the families, and most of all, the students of Clark County. I want to go back to school. I miss my students something fierce, and I know that having them return to school is in their best interest. I also know that returning to school is not safe right now. It is not safe for the students, and it's not safe for faculty and staff. I understand that these are very uncertain times due to COVID-19. Little is known about COVID-19. There is constantly new information about the transmission, the rate of transmission among populations and age groups, and the potential long-term effects. With so many unknowns, it is impossible to have a safe re-entry plan right now. I cannot even begin to imagine how daunting of a task it must be to attempt to create a plan for the safe reopening of all of our schools. I appreciate the time and energy that the task force and others have put into this, into trying to make reentry into schools as safe as possible. However, I have some serious concerns with the reentry plan that was shared, including the lack of certain perspective that was noticeably absent, that of teachers. Without teachers, there is no school. So not including them in the conversation about reentry seems imprudent. It makes asking teachers who have been cautiously sheltering in place for months to jump into the lion's den and interact with hundreds of students and their thousands of contacts in and out of the home seemingly completely insensitive and unreasonable. With this added exposure comes added risk. Without teachers on the reentry task force, a vital perspective has been lost. Teachers have critical insight into how to execute the precautions necessary and determine their feasibility in order to reopen schools safely. The lack of teachers on this committee reinforces what the callous letter that staff received on July 6th already showed. The district is not interested in the thoughts, concerns, ideas, or fears of teachers. This oversight has shown me that the district views teachers as expendable, not essential. And I will end at that point. Is that right, Lisa?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was Natalie Ferrando. Good evening. As a teacher in the Clark County School District, I would like to express my concerns about reopening the schools. I do not have children, but I am concerned for my life, my coworkers' lives, and the lives of our community. What happens when teachers get sick and there are absolutely no substitutes to stand in for us? Do we increase class sizes when the teacher count runs low? What happens when staff in the high-risk category are forced to return to work and get sick and possibly die? Who is responsible for keeping staff and students safe? Are you aware of the classroom conditions in our county? 30+ students in one room, but we are supposed to maintain distance from one another. I know everyone is doing the best they can, but I am concerned with how little concern is being shown for the lives of teachers and students. Is there no online options available? Then teachers and students and parents have the ability to choose what they can do to literally stay alive. This is not a light matter. This is literally life and death. Please consider those lives you are risking by prematurely opening schools. Signed, Hannah Parr, Clark Middle School. Dear Board of Education, I am a new parent of CCSD with my oldest child beginning preschool this fall. I have been following the events and controversy around Dr. Means and feel the need to weigh in. We need a superintendent who sees addressing racial equality as the top priority, and in the interest of that mission, need to more strongly resist wasteful spending, open despotic practices with third-party educational service companies, bloated bureaucracies, and the degrading of employees and holding accreditation hostage as reform tactics. The Betsy DeVos style vision of profiteering in public education is going to face increasingly condemnation as we work through the challenges ahead, and it's time to move away from it. It is unfair for students, teachers, and parents, and unfair to Dr. Means himself to drag this out any further and consider reinstating him, only to lay the future failure of the district to reopen adequately to the pandemic at his feet. He publicly stated in a board meeting last fall that he wanted to leave the district. With budget cuts and increased needs ahead, I would implore all parties to put their hostilities aside and recognize that an expensive buyout for the former superintendent is a betrayal of CCSD students and local taxpayers. It's time to move on. Hire of a new superintendent who will prioritize addressing inequality through trusting and investing in our own Athenians, staying away from big money, one-size-fits-all programs that have failed students in CCSD for too long. Hire someone who will empower CCSD teachers and staff as they literally begin to risk their lives now to educate our children. Thank you all for your service. Sincerely, Peter Lane, CCSD parent. Hello, I am a rising 7th grader at Clark Middle. I've done a year at CMS and love it. When COVID-19 hit during spring break, I was devastated that I didn't get to finish my first year of middle school. I hope, like others, that we would be back before the next school year started. But as we have learned, this is not the case. When me and my family found out about the 2 options for school this year, I got another crushing blow. The 2 options that were given made me livid. either come into school and risk our or our family's health, or use the packaged, outsourced, and commercial learning tool. I feel like learning is one of our top priorities. Learning the right way with constant support from teachers feels like it gives us a better understanding of the topic. Feeling confident when learning can make or break a student's grades, test scores, and overall health. Learning online with people who we have never met makes me feel like our education is being downcut. Currently, our world is in near shambles. Racism, pollution, homophobia, global warming, internment of immigrants, border patrol, families being ripped apart. With a deadly virus rapidly spreading throughout the world, affecting millions and keeping us virtually locked up in our homes on top of it all, it can be hard to get motivated, to see hope. But our education is something that can keep us grounded. It can give us something to hold on to. Our personal future and the future of the world rests on our shoulders. And if we are the generation that is going to help pave the road to fixing these problems for good, we are going to need a good education to help us get there. Our world being where it is today makes me want to fight for justice. But at the moment, we cannot go to protest without running a high risk of getting sick. I feel stuck and very upset, but this has given me hope for a better future, hope to make an impact, even if it is not solving racism or stopping global warming. It gives me something to work toward, and this has helped me find my voice. Now I am going to use it to empower people to do what they think is right. Now I have a few prominent issues with this system that you all have formulated. Not only does the in-school option using masks risk hundreds of kids and their families' safety.
Mr. Davis.
The
Time.
email says nothing about masks, gloves, and face shields being used. And this was written by Maddie Pittard. To the Board of Education. My husband and I have been physicians in Clark County for many years. We have 2 children who have been attending Clark Middle School this upcoming year. We have various concerns regarding the safety and well-being of our children, the teachers, and members of the community. Over the past few weeks, I have heard from a number of parents, teachers, and friends about their concerns regarding going back to school in August. It's not necessary for me to reiterate what you have already heard. I will say that we hope you have made the best interest of the children and teachers at heart, that you have the best interest of the children and teachers at heart in your decision-making process. We know this cannot have been an easy few months for you or Dr. Thomas. You have a lot of information to work with from local governing bodies, the CDC and AAP, but possibly not all the resources or finances you need to put those plans into action. Information is also changing rapidly. The surveys parents filled out a month ago were based on information regarding the virus that is very different from what is happening now in our community. Things may change again in the next couple of weeks. We need to be able to adapt and change readily without a lot of information. There is no precedent for a situation like this. My husband and I know that there is no perfect answer regarding virtual school, hybrid models, or in-person teaching. That being said, we would like our children to attend school in person, as we believe that is what's best for them academically, socially, and emotionally. We can only do so if we feel the school district can adapt and change as the pandemic does and has the means to do so. Rachel and Marty Murthy. Back to the drawing board, CCSD. This distance learning plan is a huge swing and a miss. Traditional school year with more cleaning procedures, option to homeschool for parents who are concerned. Unsigned. Dear Board of Education, I am writing to you for several reasons. First of all, I just learned that Dr. Means is still, quotation marks, receiving salary after he stated he was going to step down so many months ago. Why is this man still being paid? This is ridiculous, especially since even after he was placed on leave, he was still acting as if he was still superintendent with various companies. Second, as a district, we cannot afford to pay 2 superintendents, and I hope the board will immediately suspend payment to him. Furthermore, I did not agree with many of the things Dr. Means did with the district on many occasions, and especially the way he handled his departure. I am at a loss as to why his behavior is being rewarded with salary, and if I understand correctly, why on earth is he still receiving emails to the Clark County School District email address? I heard there are several people who would like to reinstate him, and based on his performance and actions, I'm at a total loss as to why this would be the case. Please, please do not reinstate Dr. Means. On a different note, both our children attend school in Clark and are very worried about attending school face-to-face next month. My middle schooler could very easily independently learn from home and would love that option. I'm not sure my elementary school student would do as well, but they both understand science and the basics of the virus and don't quite get how being back in school would be safe. Perhaps with more information, we will have a better understanding as to how it will work and be safe. Trust me, I want them to be back in school. I just wonder if giving the spikes in Georgia, if it will be safe, be the safe thing to do from a health perspective. Finally, I do not want to end on a positive note and say how pleased I am with Dr. Thomas and her performance. She is doing an amazing job under a very difficult situation, and I am so glad she is currently the superintendent. Thank you to the board for all your hard work on this difficult situation. Rebecca Marshall. I am a grandmother of 3 boys in Fowler Elementary School District. I support the BOE's decision to replace Dr. Means as the superintendent of Clark County Schools. I thank the BOE for supporting the teachers, staff, and students of Clark County. Rebecca Swanson. This is my last one. I am writing in response, CCSD leaders and decision makers. I am writing in response to the letter and survey sent to all CCSD employees on Monday, July 6th. I want to be clear that I am deeply committed to serving our students and community, but I am convinced by current data that reopening schools for in-person learning this fall is irresponsible. I know that you are currently inundated with feedback and questions, so I will attempt to make my points concise. This past year was my first year as a CCSD teacher and my 15th year in the profession as a middle school art teacher, as well as my 27th year as an Athens resident. I love this community. I care about the well-being of my students and their families. I am so glad to finally be teaching in the town where I live. As you know, teachers spend hundreds of dollars out of pocket each year to benefit our students. And teaching also takes a toll on our health and home lives. We continue to serve self-sacrificing because we care. Nevertheless, we have every right to draw the line when we feel that our lives are endangered by returning to in-person instruction during the pandemic. When experts agree that the most dangerous conditions for, quote, super spreader, unquote, scenarios are indoor settings involving large groups. There is clearly no way to call in-person classes safe. Children will not abide by social distancing and mask wearing protocols consistently. Many will arrive at the bus stop or the building threshold as feverless, asymptomatic carriers who will endanger everyone else in the building. We will all be exposed to virus-ridden particles via recirculated air. Shared surfaces cannot possibly be disinfected at all times. And before long, it will also be flu season. How can we cover all the absences created by forced into a 14-day quarantine when we never had enough substitutes to cover the usual short-term absences last year? Yes, we understand that keeping students home places a tremendous burden on parents who need to return to their own jobs. We know all too well that distance learning was at best minimally engaging for most students, and at worst impossible for some to access. Sincerely, Samantha George.
Dear Board of Education, I am writing to register my opposition to the reinstatement of Mr. Means as CCSD superintendent. I question his use of funds for software that was unused and bloating the administration with positions such as chief academic officer. His management style is not a good fit for Athens Clarke County. He has disaffected principals and teachers. Reinstated Means may easily drive parents to move to other districts and for our county to lose veteran teachers. Please do not let this happen. Thank you, Sarah Baker. This is from Sarah Page Walters. Good afternoon. As a concerned teacher in the district, I have some thoughts that may be helpful in planning for opening the schools this August. I do believe that face-to-face instruction is the most beneficial avenue for instruction. However, it might be necessary to prioritize younger grades. My suggestion plan would be to have 7th through 12th grades be administered online. This age group generally is able to stay home alone during the day, needs less direct instruction to use technology appropriately, and have been in school long enough to understand expectations even through a computer. This also addresses the concerns of changing classrooms that happens in the older grades, as well as childcare during the workday. With the middle school classrooms mostly vacant, K-6 students can be spread throughout the county to allow more space for appropriate social distancing. I understand planning the relocation can be time consuming, but I believe it would be beneficial in order to go through with face-to-face instruction in the safest way we can manage for our students. We can consider opening media centers in the afternoons for older students at home who may not have reliable internet service. This gives them the space and resources to complete their work and helps to prevent them from falling behind. Another suggestion is to create or utilize outdoor classrooms. This can help teachers properly distance their classes, or it can be used as a base for online students to come work with reliable internet. To supplement the above ideas, I would suggest considering a shorter work week. Students and teachers can report Monday through Thursday, with Friday being a half day where students opting for online school can come in and access reliable internet, and custodians can disinfect the schools prior to the airing out that will occur over the weekend. I hope you take my suggestions into consideration and we all work to cultivate the safest possible environments for our CCSD community to combat this fall. Thank you, Sarah Page Walters. Sathan Milano. Hello, I've started a petition with the support of approximately 600 individuals, and that link is included. We are asking CCSD to take action and to answer questions outlined in the petition above, make the right choice, and keep schools closed. Thank you, Sathan Milano. Catherine Schitzhoser. Dear Clark County Board of Education, my name is Catherine Schitzhoser, and I am entering my 11th year teaching in Clark County. I am an EIP teacher for grades 1 through 5. I love this county. I love my job. I love my colleagues, and most of all, I love my students. I saw firsthand the dramatic disparities in the educational equity during emergency distance learning. I also know our students' social, emotional, and physical well-being has suffered during the COVID-19 health emergency. It is heartbreaking. I know that being back in the classroom is the best option for our students, and I want to be back in the classroom with them. I'm sorry about that. I am also terrified. I'm sorry, I went down a little bit too far. I am 6 months pregnant. I am a type 1 diabetic. I have every reason to be fearful of returning to in-person instruction in the midst of a global pandemic. If my understanding is correct, I have two choices. First, I can return to school and risk contracting COVID-19, which threatens not only my life, but also my unborn child. Second, I can take up to 10 weeks of unpaid FMLA time, which means the loss of half of my family's income. I cannot apply additional sick days to cover more paid time because I need them to cover my 6 weeks of maternity leave. Simply put, I can risk either mine and my unborn child's life, or I can pay my mortgage and support my family. Earlier in the summer, the district asked my colleagues and I to complete a survey indicating our teaching preferences. I selected teaching digitally since I am at increased risk for severe illness. I had assumed that this would be an option for me and other high-risk teachers. On July the 7th, however, my principal explained that Clark County teachers would not have the option of providing digital learning in the fall to students selecting that avenue. Instead, we were told that the district would be handling the online learning. Indeed, many Clark County families rejoice that a digital learning option is available. They were not, however, informed that a classroom teacher would not be guiding that instruction. I maintain that many families would feel quite differently if this distinction were explained clearly. Again, if this information is incorrect, I welcome correction and further explanation from CCSD administration and or the BOE. Was that the bell?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
This is from Suzanne Lester. To whom it concerns, my name is Suzanne Lester, and I am a mother of 2 students at Clark Central High School, one of whom is a UGA dual enrollee and a rising senior. The other is sophomore with a high-risk underlying medical condition. Here are my comments, questions, concerns. 1, if during high school hybrid models, will siblings be put on the same A or B schedule? If choose an online option, option 2 for elementary or high school, who will be teaching? Ideally, it should be our usual teachers or those in the district who are high risk for COVID-19 complications and are safest teaching remotely. Were you planning to outsource this and pay a private company with public money instead of paying our own CCSD teachers? If we choose hybrid for high school and in-person for elementary school and later have concerns, can we switch to online? Are our teachers being given the option to teach only online? They should be. It is disrespectful to our dedicated teachers to outsource and or force them to take unpaid, regular or unpaid FMLA leave. I've seen your letter to teachers, and it is appalling in the lack of compassion and the statements that a teacher or staff not feeling safe, quotation, is insufficient. Why was the CCSD reopening update 7/7/2020 email sent with via a different method? I still have not received the email. Many others also have not and may not access social media or infinite portal. You must give all parents in the district equal access to these communications, exclamation point. I cannot reasonably make a decision without answers to these questions. Respectfully, Suzanne Lester. Tamara Haig. Dr. Thomas and school board members, thank you for your continued service to our community during these unprecedented times. I would like to thank CCSD for the recently released plan to provide families with options for both in-person and distant learning options of instruction. Clearly, a lot of thought was given to how to meet the varying needs of families, faculty, and staff in a crisis where there is no template. Right now, the entire nation and the world are under a lot of stress. Yet CCSD employees have proceeded steadfastly in crafting plans to move forward that meet the needs of as many stakeholders as possible. Thank you for your excellent work in these trying times. I would also like to thank Dr. Zanona Thomas for her leadership during this crisis. It is never a small task to serve as an interim leader, and to do so during a global pandemic must require a Herculean effort. I am a parent to 2 CCSD students, and from this vantage point, her leadership has appeared steady, deliberate, responsive, collaborative, and skilled. When so many things in the world today are different than we would choose them to be, I am taking stock of all sources of gratitude. I am grateful to Dr. Thomas for her outstanding efforts leading our district in 2020. In these uncertain times, the confidence and trust I have in this local leader is certainly something to be grateful. Thank you again to all of you for your service. Tamara Haig. It is from Tamara Tillman. Dear CCSD board members, first, thank you for your time and deep concern as our community navigates the dual stresses of school during a pandemic and an accreditation review. I would like to address my concerns with CCSD as a citizen of Athens and a former CCSD parent. Up until last year, my children attended Whit Davis Elementary School. My son graduated from 5th grade and had an overwhelmingly positive experience during his 5 years at the school. The quality of instruction was of exceptional note. Of equal importance, he received a social experience that enabled him to make lasting friendships with other boys who are different from him. We look forward to putting my daughter into Whit Davis. However, from the start, it was very apparent that she was in a deeply dysfunctional and traumatic environment. The school had gone through too many administrative changes and had almost no structural discipline, administrative support, or experienced teachers left. Multiple students in her class showed signs of deep trauma developing from the unpredictable classroom environment. My daughter did as well, and we were left with no other option than to remove her mid-year. I will not continue to expound upon the problems at Whit Davis. They have been discussed at length other times. I do want to expound upon Dr. Means' role in perpetuating this unsafe environment. As a white middle-class mother from the North, I have always assumed a position of deep humility in my dealings with the complex needs of CCSD. To this end, I have talked to everyone I could about the disastrous and sudden downturn of Whit Davis. I have asked teachers, Black and white parents, PAP members, LGBT members, all the principals that Whit Davis had recently had, and Dr. Means to advise me on the situation at hand. I had gathered parental and teacher concerns and included these in my emails and conversations to Dr. Means and the principals of Whit Davis. The message I received both indirectly and sometimes directly from Dr. Means is this: I am a bad mother for choosing to send my children to CCSD when I have other options. If I can move or afford private school, then I should. The next overwhelming message is that Black children cannot learn because they have too much trauma due to racial inequities and poverty. The last overwhelming message that I received is that as a white woman, I really don't have a voice in the conversation. I do have a voice. I have kept it quiet because I have sought information first. I am first and foremost concerned with the children who do not have the option of leaving CCSD. I'm secondly concerned with the district being healed.
Dr. Maddox, time's up.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry. I can't really hear the bell. I barely heard the first time. Thank you for letting me know. Now I hear it. Tanya Hudson. Dear Dr. Thomas and Board of Education representatives, my name is Tanya Hudson. I have lived in Athens for 21 years and I have been teaching for 16 years. 11 of those years have been in Clark County. I am currently the library media specialist at Chase Elementary School, where my daughter is a rising first grader and my brother is a behavior interventionist. In addition, my nephew is a rising ninth grader at Clark Central High School. I am deeply committed to public education in Athens, Clark County, and I thank you in advance for your time and consideration in reading this letter. I have two concerns that I would like to address. First, I would like to share my thoughts about our current superintendent situation. And second, I would like to address several concerns about the school district's plan for reopening. I started teaching in CCSD in 2009, the same year that Dr. Lanu joined the district, and my biggest criticism of him throughout his tenure was that large amounts of time, money, and energy were invested in bringing in various outside programs and packages and professional learning when what we really needed was systemic change. When Dr. Means came along, I was completely on board with his stated focus on equity and disrupting the status quo. However, based on my experiences as an educator in the Clark County School District, his premise was fantastic, but his execution was deeply flawed. In the last 3 years, we have not seen evidence of the structural changes we truly need. We got pep rallies at the Classic Center and we got Learning Wednesdays, which were prepackaged, one-size-fits-all presentations about following lesson frameworks with fidelity. We did not get meaningful, ongoing, district-wide professional learning and support in trauma-informed teaching, restorative justice, or anti-racist, abolitionist teaching. We got new math and language arts curricula, but no steps have been taken towards a new social studies curriculum to address the glaring biased presentation of history in our state standards. We did not get redistricting to address the segregation in our schools. We did not get substantial wage increases for our classified workers, including paraprofessionals, interventionists, bus drivers, substitutes, and nutrition staff, many of whom already suffer the effects of generational poverty in our community caused by centuries of systemic racism and government policies rooted in white supremacy. We got Abbott, which has a stated focus on closing the achievement gap quotation. However, talking about equity in terms of raising test scores and closing the achievement gap is deeply flawed because the tests themselves and the very idea of an achievement gap are rooted in white supremacy. Focusing on raising test scores does absolutely nothing to address the structural roots of oppression in our schools, and it is a distraction from the real issues at play. In the end, I wish that Dr. Means had lived up to the
Dr.
promise.
Maddox, that's 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Tony Eubanks. Hi, my name is Tony Eubanks, father of a rising ninth grader scheduled to begin Clark Central this year. I understand and sympathize with you for having to deal with the unprecedented situation we find ourselves in with reopening for instruction under the backdrop of the coronavirus. However, you're asking parents and children to make choices based on very little information, much of which is not clear and or hard to find. For example, under option 2 for high schoolers, your July 7th letter, which I and many parents didn't receive, states that when students are not assigned to in-person instruction, including Fridays, students will engage in digital/distance learning. An explanation of what form that digital/distance learning will take is a bare minimum of information we should be given, but we have not been provided. As I understand it, after much digging through social media, why am I having to dig through social media? Parentheses. Distance learning will be contracted out at significant expense to the district, and that classroom teachers will not be responsible for this content. If that is correct, exactly what role will the classroom teachers play on the 2 days of in-person instruction? Has that role been crafted with input from teachers? Again, I sympathize with the fact that you find yourselves between a rock, virus, parentheses, and a hard place, budget, parentheses. But the lack of information and transparency has been appalling at best. Sincerely, Tony Eubanks. P.S. The options you've given to teachers come across as little better than threatening and intimidation, and quite frankly, shows a severe underappreciation for the work they do and the role they should play in this transformation of our children's learning experience. Okay, Trenton Baker. Clark County, please rethink your plan. California has more cases than Nevada, and they are keeping a traditional school year for K-5 students. They are just splitting the classes. Please allow K-5 to have a normal school experience. The psychological damage will not be able to be undone, as well as the lack of resources for students and IEP resources. Please do not ruin school, exclamation point. Okay, Usher Rodriguez. I know that you have heard many comments from parents concerned about reopening. I'm worried too. I'm most concerned right now with making sure the district provides vulnerable teachers with online options so that they can do their job safely. Still, while I don't think the plan is perfect, I write to support Dr. Zenona Thomas and her efforts to move our district forward. Dr. Thomas's leadership has steered CCSD with excellence and compassion. The almost immediate provision of food to members of the community in need was tremendous. The support of students as we transitioned to online was exceptional. I have 3 children in CCSD, and each received regular support from teachers through the end of the school year. The district has been sensitive to the vital political and social challenges raised by the killing of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests. I know the fall rollout will be rocky. Given Dr. Thomas's successes, I am puzzled by voices in the community asking for Dr. Billings' return. In my opinion, that would be disastrous. Dr. Lees was a divisive figure who repeatedly proved he could not work with the board. He made financial decisions that have depleted district resources. He precipitated an accreditations crisis. He signaled publicly at a board meeting that he did not even want the job of superintendent. The last thing we need during a time of crisis is more disruption. It is time to move on. Dr. Thomas has only led the district for a few months, but those few months demonstrate what we can accomplish. Even in the context of a crisis of historic proportions, with a competent leader who puts the needs of students ahead of her own ego. In summary, I support Dr. Thomas wholeheartedly, and I am extremely grateful for the work she has done. If she does not want to serve as our next superintendent, I urge you to continue the positive momentum she has brought. Launch a search for a new superintendent that can move us forward rather than backward. The future of our district lies with a leader who can unite us. Excuse me. Dear Dr. Zenona Thomas, dear members of the Board of Education, I'm writing to you because with every new day, there are more questions and uncertainties regarding the reopening of schools. With less than 4 weeks until school starts and with the increasing exposure exposure of COVID-19, and that exposure will be significantly higher once the 30,000 UGA students return to the Athens area. I am very skeptical that a physical reopening of schools will be safe for teachers, staff, and students alike. And obviously, it is not safe for these groups. It will not be safe for their families and the community at large. This is such a difficult situation for everyone, and especially for those who come up with a plan for the coming year, school year. I want to thank everyone involved for their time and hard work. I would like to emphasize that the following points are not meant to criticize anyone, but to voice my genuine concern, fears, and thoughts. One, wearing masks all day long at school. I know this will almost be impossible to maintain, especially with the younger kids. We have been pleading with our youngest for her to wear a mask when in public spaces. As soon as she put the mask on, it did not take 10 seconds for her to start complaining and eventually begging to have the mask removed. How is a teacher going to handle all this multiplied by 20 to 30 students while trying to teach? How is a child to follow instructional time like this? Continuously washing hands. We are told that washing hands is essential in combating the spread of the virus. My biggest fear is that students will keep touching their masks, and from there, everything that is around them. How are children going to internalize not to touch their fellow classmates and their teachers, especially the younger grades? It is in their nature to hug their teachers and their classmates. Everyone who has visited at least pre-K and kindergarten knows that hugs and embraces are part of the daily routine. With an average class size of 20 to 30 students, how realistic will it be for teachers to enforce social distancing guidelines, washing hands throughout the school day? Third, protocol in case of COVID-19 exposure. What is the protocol in case either a student or teacher has been exposed? Quarantine them and the rest of the class for 14 days? And quarantine the entire grade since they will probably meet for lunch at the cafeteria? When will parents be informed that there has been an exposure? If during the school year a class must quarantine several times due to new exposures, how is it a repeated mandatory 14 days quarantine going to affect the learning process of students? What if the teacher needs more recovery time than the students? Does the school have a pool of substitute teachers on hand? When a student or staff has been exposed to COVID-19, what are the cleaning and disinfecting protocols in the respective classroom and or the school building?
Maddox, that's 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay, Virginia Ball. Dear persons, I am the parent of a rising 11th grader at Clark Central High School, and I care deeply about equity in education. I was so excited about Dr. Means when I first heard him speak. He spoke the language of being a voice for social justice and closing the educational gap we have here. His actions betray his speech. He spends money on good old boy network consultants from every place but Athens, Georgia. If he is asked questions, the questioner is a racist. Unfortunately, he has no interest in the young people here. His actions speak to the fact that his interests lie everywhere but here. Please, let's find a local hire within. Hire someone who is familiar with the problems we face educating, particularly our impoverished students. Our principal at Clark Central is one of these people. Dr. Sway Huff grew up here, taught here, and he really understands our schools because he attended them. Please say no again to Dr. Means. Thank you, Virginia Ball, 620 Sunset, Athens, Georgia. This is the last one. Chris Woodward. As we are on the eve of building a unique pathway for the next year, I wish to offer my thanks to Dr. Thomas. When Dr. Means offered and later recanted, question mark in parentheses, his resignation, it could have fully thrown our distance off course. Likewise, when the choice was made to invite Cotnia in to investigate flaws, rather than to strengthen internal policies and contradictions, our leadership could have caved to the pressures of infighting and blame. And as it was not enough potential chaos in our midst, during our current coronavirus crisis, Dr. Thomas has helped to ensure that district support to families is compassionate. flexible, and based on student need. I hope that we have the resolve to continue with hard conversations. I am thankful that Dr. Means brought conversations to the forefront that had for too long been confined to conversations at individual schools. I also hope that we can, again, put our students of greatest need back at as our focal points. I believe simple blame is petty and not a replacement for solutions. While I could name disparate groups and individuals who failed to show up and fight for students in previous administrations, Dr. Thomas is not amongst them. She has been in the fight for her entire career. I ask that the board please call us so that we might move to our next chapter. Failure to do anything else is a continued negligence to our students of greatest need. I look forward to directions about the upcoming school year, even as I am filled with much hesitation. I am curious about how our schools can better support learning and disrupt inequity in the future. I am worried about how needs can be met safely amidst a global pandemic and wonder what degree our district will support students and families were there to be outbreaks due to a possible rush back into the schools. I am concerned about rumors I have heard from UGA that we may not be working with student teachers. Any district plan that does not creatively prioritize recruitment and retention fails to see the connection between student performance and consistency in a trained workforce. Hopefully some of these concerns will be allied when the district presents a more comprehensive detailing of the plans next year. Thank you for your work. We cannot be successful without strong leadership, without the commitment of teachers and community members, and without the humility to learn from our mistakes. Our students are worth our best efforts. Chris Woodard. And that was my last one.
I think there was one that was missed. I think Tish mentioned it. Sarah Covert.
Who is that?
Sarah Covert.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me see. Okay, I'm sorry. Here we are. Sarah Covert. Sorry about that, Ms. Covert. His tenure, okay, it's cut off a bit. His tenure at CCSD has been controversial and undermined the effectiveness of our excellent school district. Please do not allow the disruption associated with this leadership to continue. My two children have been enrolled in CCSD for their entire education, kindergarten to 11th grade. They are now rising seniors at Clark Central. I believe in CCSD and its value to our whole community. I think a different leader is needed to support the continued growth and success of students in CCSD. Regards, Sarah Covert.
Thank you. Dr. Maddox and Ms. Davis, and Mr. Davis and Dr. Dykeman for your help with being sure that our concerned citizens are heard and reading those public comments. It is 9:03. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. And so again, according to well, actually, let me get probably a more updated. I'm sorry. My phone actually says 9:07. And so we will resume. Actually, let's do a little bit more than 5 minutes. We'll start back at 9:15.